subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
He had already secretly accumulated strength there, attacking without holding back. Even this Marine admiral couldn't believe it, although it was not clear whether the other party was a girl from the giant tribe. Judging from her appearance and the way she addressed the fallen angel Ai Erbafu, her age would definitely not be very old. But she actually had such exaggerated strength. It was incredible. Linlin, this guy, has made rapid progress, easily carrying the heavy and huge barbarian dragon Oboro. Witnessing the brief confrontation between Charlotte Linlin and the Iron Claw Admiral, Ai Erbafu, who had already anticipated the other party's purpose, but had no intention of stopping it, couldn't help but chuckle. He believed that under his training, he only needed to go through a few more years of training and tempering. Linlin will definitely be able to fully tap her unlimited potential as a natural monster in the shortest possible time. By then, even Marine Admiral will have to take a detour when he sees her. Hack Admiral, don't underestimate Charlotte Linlin. Not far away, although she has regained her freedom. But the crane has been deprived of her youth and is old. Looking at Charlotte Linlin in the sky, he clenched his fists tightly, his eyes full of 320 days. There, he reminded Hack Admiral loudly. She not only has an invulnerable body, but also has the ability of the mystical beast species that can directly plunder the youth and life of others. Even if Sengoku used the ability of the mystical beast species' great Buddha form, he couldn't suppress her with all his strength. Instead, because of his carelessness, she seized the opportunity and directly hit him hard. What? Hearing this, Iron Claw Hack was shocked. He knew Sengoku's strength very well, especially the ability of the mystical beast species' great Buddha form. The opponent has a very amazing attack power and can release a powerful shockwave. But when he thought about the Tempest Kick that he had been charging for a long time, it was easily blocked by the opponent. He was somewhat relieved. For a moment, his heart was awed. He looked at the fallen angel Ai Erbafu not far away with a smile on his face, and did not take the opportunity to attack him. Another 10 terrible monsters? He could imagine that if the girl really grew up. Add to that the fallen angel Ai Erbafu, a natural monster of the Lunaria clan who already has terrible strength. At that time, how terrible a threat will the fallen angel pirates have? Just thinking about it makes my scalp numb. Mama, Marine Admiral Ironclaw Hack, right? In the sky, Dabe carried Napoleon and pressed him on his shoulders. Standing above Thundercloud Hera, Linlin looked relaxed. Looking down at Hack Admiral below with a smile, she said sarcastically, "Instead of trying to stop me, you might as well try to save your life in the next battle. Otherwise, tomorrow's headlines will not only be about the killing or kidnapping of celestial dragons, but also about a certain admiral who died heroically." Mama. She is very clear about Ai Erbafu's strength. She is more confident, not worried at all. Stop talking nonsense. Hearing this, Hack Admiral's face is ashen, and his eyes are extinguished. Gnashing his teeth and staring at Charlotte Linlin, who is riding on the thundercloud and rushing away. "You little brats, don't underestimate Marine Admiral. When I was fighting pirates, you were not even born yet." Voila. At the same time, a large amount of seawater kept pouring in, filling up the huge crack that Ai Erbafu had previously swung the barbarian dragon Hokori and split directly. This monster, looking at the smooth and terrifying cut, it seemed to form a huge river and an exaggerated gully with no bottom. Even though he was extremely confident in his own strength, the Admiral of Headquarters couldn't help but twitch his eyelids and was a little terrified. He never thought that the fallen angel Ai Erbafu could swing such a terrifying huge slash so easily. According to the intelligence received by Marine, the fallen angel Ai Erbafu should often use Redline as a sandbag and dig out one exaggerated hole after another on it. Shouldn't his physical skills be stronger? Unexpectedly, his swordsmanship was not inferior at all. The Lunaria boy in front of him is only 17 years old at most, right? What kind of monster is this? Okay, let's stop talking nonsense. It's time to warm up. Holding the barbarian dragon Hoko in his right hand, pointing directly at Iron Claw Hack, Ai Air looked down at him. Fury and sneering, he said, Linlin is right. Next, you, the Marine Admiral, will fully experience how powerless you, the highest combat force of the Naval Headquarters, are. You are so arrogant. Iron Claw Hack rushed out. The flame-like black streamers all over his body made him an ancient species sickle dragon form ability user, more weird and vicious. The fierce and sharp sickle claws were wrapped around the high-level armament Haki. The body was extremely swift, as fast as lightning, and it was almost impossible to react towards the fallen angel, Ai Air, in front of him, tearing fiercely. If you become my enemy, your fate is only defeat. There is no other way. Ai Air's eyes are sharp, and Haki is unparalleled. A tall figure, with flames behind his head, is filled with an indescribable sense of oppression. Swinging the barbarian dragon Hoko, he slashes out. Clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing is endless. Cold light flashes, afterimages intersect, and constantly collide. The confrontation between the two is extremely fast, and the angle and direction of the confrontation are constantly changing. The battlefield has moved dozens or hundreds of meters in an instant. It is dazzling and can't react at all. In that fierce confrontation, it's just the aftermath of the confrontation between the two strong men. It's enough to make people tremble with fear and shiver. One after another, the amazing air blades kept tearing the atmosphere apart and pouring out. On the surrounding surface, there were shocking gullies and cracks of varying sizes. One after another, the big trees were cut off mercilessly. It was extremely shocking. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, several cold lights flashed. The claw-like slash flew out like lightning. Rocks flew, and smoke and dust rolled. The huge auction house was torn into several pieces like tofu and collapsed there. A large number of pirates, civilians, nobles, merchants, and others who were previously stunned by Conqueror's Haki were directly buried in it mercilessly. It was horrible. The next moment, accompanied by a violent sound of breaking through the air. In the crane flower, the marine flower looked at him in shock. Swish! The dazzling light was too dazzling to look at directly. A huge and unmatched green slash, like a strong and fierce silk, swept out there, tearing the atmosphere apart, unstoppable, like a rotten wood. Countless big trees were cut in half, and the swift and unmatched giant slash continued to move forward, heading straight for the direction of the second and third peninsulas. From afar, a rumbling sound like a deafening sound was heard. It made people turn pale. Cold sweat ran down. Boom, boom. As the big trees on the first peninsula groaned, they fell one after another. Rows of tree trunks with smooth cuts appeared there. The scene was spectacular and exaggerated. It was jaw-dropping. I couldn't believe it. Chapter 84. Fighting at full strength? A devastating blow. Boom, walala, walala. Peninsula number 1. It has already turned into ruins. A large amount of seawater keeps pouring back. Exaggerated cracks in all directions have formed huge rivers and gullies. The fierce battle has made the peninsula, which is formed by the roots of the world's largest Yarki mangrove partially exposed to the water, become riddled with holes and horrible to look at. Is this the strength of the fallen angel Ai Air? The terrible collision between the two powerful men made the flower of the marine a little horrified. This Iron Claw Admiral, who represents the highest combat power of the naval headquarters, undoubtedly fully demonstrated his powerful strength as a Marine Admiral at this moment. He is a Zoan ancient ability user, and he has already awakened. His speed can be said to be terrifying. Hack Admiral, who is powerful and has rich combat experience, has no intention of directly confronting the powerful fallen angel Ai Air. Air did not mean to confront him head-on. Instead, he directly relied on his speed advantage to run, jump, and move back and forth. He was so fast that the naked eye could not see his figure clearly. If observation Haki was not strong enough, he could not predict his trajectory at all. He kept circling and testing, looking for the flaws of the fallen angel, Ai Erbafu, waiting for an opportunity to move. Every move was extremely sharp and terrifying. Swish! Suddenly, on a piece of ruins, a cold light flashed. The sickle that could cut gold and jade suddenly attacked. There! Ai Erbafu's eyes were stern, and some hair stood up. Without thinking, he waved the barbarian dragon Great Hoko and slashed straight to the left and back. But in an instant, the figure of Iron Claw Hack running over did not hesitate and step hard on the air. It disappeared in a flash, making the huge spearhead that slashed out miss. A loud rumble. A huge and sharp slash. Continuously, the ground was torn apart diagonally. Countless trees were cut off, and a large amount of smoke and dust was raised. It made people sweat. Boo! But the extremely fast Iron Claw Hack was not affected at all. The black flame cloud was lingering, and the figure with amazing momentum changed the direction of attack again and circled behind Ai Erbafu at lightning speed. Suddenly, the sharp sickle claws wrapped around Haki were extremely fierce and ruthless. It struck Ai Erbafu, who had just launched a blow, was a little slow and could not react in time. Bang! The powerful impact force shook Ai Erbafu back a few steps, and the ground cracked. But he was in flames behind his head. He was unharmed. Swish! However, the extremely cautious Iron Claw Hack did not wait for the murderous Ai Erbafu to launch a counterattack. Like an ancient cheetah, he disappeared again in an instant, incredibly fast, moving at super high speed, constantly changing his trajectory and direction, interfering with Ai Erbafu observation Haki, making it impossible to accurately lock on, waiting for an opportunity to attack from another blind spot. Hunting prey. Clang! Spark splashed, just blocked the attack from the right. The huge spear tip wrapped with Haki collided with the sickle claws, which were also wrapped with armed color and had a cold and attractive light. But the next moment, before Ai Erbafu waved the barbarian dragon formation to launch a counterattack, this experienced Iron Claw Admiral had already retreated immediately, relying on the already honed razor and moonwalk, stepping on the atmosphere and jumping again, and ran out there, changing direction quickly at an astonishing speed, not giving the young monster of the Lunaria tribe any chance to counterattack, retreating after every attack, not lingering on the fight. Can this guy really foresee the future? With such a huge body and such a heavy weapon, I can barely keep up with the ultimate speed I showed when I awakened my ancient ability. After images, sometimes running wildly on land, sometimes jumping on tree trunks, accompanied by the amazing wind pressure, Iron Claw Hack continued to move at super high speed, so fast that the naked eye could not see it clearly. His sharp eyes cooperated with observation Haki and locked onto the fallen angel Ai Erbafu in front of him. Armament Haki has also been honed to a very amazing degree, not inferior to O at all. Add to that monster-like, unbelievably strong power. Then the only thing that I, the Marine Admiral, can surpass him is speed. He had to admit, this Lunaria monster, it seems that he has the same level as his Marine Admiral strength is quite impressive, and it is comparable to the bandits today. At the same time, he also deeply felt the horror of this natural monster. The speed of growth is really amazing. How old is the fallen angel Ai Erbafu now? If he is given a few more years, what will happen? Jumping around? It's just a rat in the gutter. Ai Erbafu's eyes were stern. A flash of red light flashed in his eyes. Holding the barbarian dragon Katakuri, his exaggerated muscles were tense, and he swung it diagonally. Born with this ability and trained day and night, observation Haki has already become extremely strong. He locked onto Iron Claw Hack. He predicted the opponent's movement trajectory directly. It was rare to encounter an opponent of this level. He was not prepared to use his own fruit ability so quickly. He just wanted to use this famous Iron Claw Admiral as a whetstone. He wanted to fully verify the results of his training over the years. I got you. All of a sudden, the flame on the back of his head was extinguished in an instant. It seemed that he had revealed a flaw, but in fact he had been secretly accumulating power for a long time, just to lure Iron Claw Hack to attack him. He turned his body suddenly, as fast as lightning, stared at the barbarian dragon man, and slashed at the back. Wagwa! He did not hesitate to activate the racial ability of the Lunaria tribe. He sacrificed part of his defensive ability and entered the strongest attack state. In an instant, his own strength and speed were greatly enhanced. With all his strength, he launched a fierce and terrifying blow at Iron Claw, Hack, who was about to attack from behind. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound of breaking through the air continued, and the atmosphere was directly crushed. A giant sword energy shock wave with an exaggerated diameter of no less than 20 or 30 meters came crushing fiercely. Terrifying and unstoppable. Boom! The sound was so loud that it was almost inaudible. The earth kept wailing. It was directly torn apart and plowed open mercilessly. Iron Claw Hack, who had just rushed out, changed color in horror. He jumped and moved sideways in a dangerous manner, but was still a step slower. He was blown away by the fierce wind pressure. The loud noise continued. The unparalleled blow directly tore through countless trees and continued to hit the number 4 peninsula in front. It was like a rotten wood completely destroying all the trees and buildings that stood in front of it. Nothing could stop it. It even continued to extend to the 8th and 13th peninsulas that bordered the 4th peninsula and connected in a straight line. Finally, the terrifying sword energy shock wave blasted straight into the sea. A warship that had just surrounded the Sabeti archipelago and broke into the offshore was the first to bear the brunt. That's it. No looking at the cylindrical shock wave. The nearly 100-meter-long large warship was ruthlessly submerged, accompanied by the screams of countless Marines in fear. The entire warship was directly penetrated and turned into fragments all over the sky. On the sea, there was an exaggerated, huge trench. It made people shudder. Witnessing this exaggerated blow, even if he tried his best to dodge, he was still carried by the fierce wind pressure and flew backwards. After stabilizing his body in a somewhat awkward manner, his eyelids twitched and he could not help but sweat. Is this the giant tribe's unique skill that Kong mentioned, the Ai Erbafu spear? But according to his introduction, the power should not be so amazing, right? Such a terrifying shockwave, if hit. Even he, the Admiral of Headquarters, would be directly seriously injured. The opponent's strength has obviously made a qualitative leap, and it is completely not at the same level as when he fought with Kong. Gulu, what level of power is this? He widened his eyes. She had just retreated to Peninsula number 2 and was about to leave. Looking at the huge gully that seemed to have been plowed and stretched as far as the eye could see, he could not help swallowing his saliva, and his scalp was numb. It was also the Ai Erbafu spear. But at this moment, Ai Air released the Wagwa. It was the Wagwa released by Charlotte Linlin before. The power was extremely terrifying. The giant spear in his hand danced like the wind, and waved it again towards the somewhat embarrassed Hack Admiral in front. Why you, the watchdog of the world government, are only this little bit? Didn't you keep barking that you want to stand up for your celestial dragon's master, and want to keep me here? Excite me more. Swish the next moment, the atmosphere was torn apart. A huge and extremely blazing slash swept across. Don't get too complacent. Hack, with his hideous iron claws surrounded by black flames, was furious. Not to be outdone, he gathered strength with his right foot. He kicked out fiercely. Tempest kick, Londuan. A huge light green slash suddenly broke through the air. It collided fiercely with the huge slash that came violently. Chapter 85. Bug's Ability, the Iron Triangle of Fallen Angels. Ai Oni-chan is so awesome. In the sky, just joined Gerd, Lily, and Linlin, standing on Thundercloud Zeus and Thundercloud Hera respectively. Looking at the exaggerated movement below, especially looking at the huge ditch that runs through several peninsulas and extends straight to the sea, some are amazed. Ai Oni-chan's Wagwa is too powerful. Linlin's eyes lit up, full of envy and yearning. When can I achieve this level? Linlin, what are you talking about? One hand pressed on Thundercloud Hera's body. He took back the soul clone that parasitized on homies before his departure, as well as the souls harvested before. Gerd rolled his eyes and said speechlessly, "When can I achieve your level?" Hee, do you two want me to feel inferior? Lily, who was hit hard, held her forehead and said speechlessly, Linlin, a natural monster, needless to say, is not comparable to Ai heir in the future of 990. But sooner or later, when he grows up, he will have the rather exaggerated power that Ai heir Oniai-chan is showing now. Although Gerd is not as good as Linlin, but the soul fruit is a training cheat, perfect bug-level life return, plus soul injection. An organism that can exercise autonomously. The future achievements will definitely be far above Will and Helding. Maybe even the two famous leaders of the giant pirates, Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, who are said to be fighting on an island, will be surpassed by it. And she, Lily Ernst Mark, although she has the chaos fruit, which can be combined with any life form. But she is not a little worse than these two people, and her ability is more auxiliary. Of course, envy is envy. Lily is very satisfied with her own chaos fruit. This ability to directly merge with others and exert powerful strength is so interesting. You are a guy who got the advantage and still acted cute. Your ability to get something for nothing is the most enviable. Gerd knocked on Lily's head and said unhappily, her soul fruit ability. It is very buggy in assisting training. But the ability of the chaos fruit is not much inferior in this regard, because after the chaos fruit merges with others, everyone can share a body and senses. In the fusion training and battles again and again, Lily, the chaos fruit ability user, can be said to have gained a lot. Although she is the youngest giant in the Fallen Angel Pirates, she has successfully awakened and mastered observation Haki and armament Haki. The speed of growth is jaw-dropping. Of course, it is not just Lily, the chaos fruit ability user. She and Linlin can make such rapid progress, thanks to the characteristics of the chaos fruit. Ai heir can merge with them on weekdays to show physical skills, swordsmanship, Haki, fruit abilities, with the sharing of senses, and Ai heir took the trouble to explain it in detail, and even had wild ideas on the use of various fruit abilities and demonstrated many new moves for them. Everyone gained a lot. So, since Lily got the Ran fruit this year, their strength can be said to have made great progress. Grinning, stepping on the crescent eyes, Lily held her head high and said confidently, that was obtained through hard work and practice. How can it be said to be obtained without effort? Gerd was right. Not as good as the best, but better than the worst. Her special ability made Wit and Helding and other giant companions envious. However, she didn't want to merge with these stinky boys. These guys are not like Ai Oni-chan. Not only do they love cleanliness, but they are also so handsome. Okay, let's stop talking about this. The extremely sharp Shinigami sickle danced a few circles casually, blowing up amazing wind pressure. Gerd pointed to the amazing number of marine fleets on the sea, which were slowly spreading out their formations to directly surround the Sabeti archipelago. It's almost time to work. Ever since Lily became the user of the Ran fruit ability, at Ai heir's request, they often conduct combined training on weekdays to cultivate tacit understanding. They also tried to combine various devil fruit abilities under Ai heir's guidance and developed some quite amazing moves. But they can't wait to use such a big stage to fully demonstrate it. Mama, let's get started. Linlin's eyes lit up and she said happily, Lily, Gerd, let me take charge later. Next time we merge, it will be your turn. Okay, I have no objection, Lily and Gerd nodded with a smile. This is a real battlefield. Unlike the three of them when they were training to merge, fighting, and no one was convinced by the other, everyone wanted to take the lead, so they could only draw lots or take turns. Linlin's strength is stronger than her and Lily. It's no problem to let the other party take the lead. Ran fusion Shinigami mode. Lily directly grabbed the two of them. She was shining with strange light and activated the ability of the Ran fruit. Swish! The light was dazzling. 3 tall figures disappeared. Instead, there was a female giant who was no less than 20 meters tall. In appearance, it has the characteristics of all three. Its eyebrows look a bit like Gerd and a bit like Linlin, but it also has Lily's green hair. Zero also. Its weapon has turned into a huge sickle. Lily Gerd, I heard that Marine has an Iron Triangle New Star combination. Linlin, who was in charge of the leadership, stood on the body of Thundercloud Zeus. Looking at his unattainable new body, which was no different from the giants, he grinned excitedly. I think the three of us are also an Iron Triangle combination, hee. Oh, then we are the Iron Triangle of the Fallen Angel Pirates, hee. It's better to call the Iron Triangle Lily a Linlin, Queen Gerd. Hee, what a great nickname. All fleets open the formation and immediately surround Sabaody Archipelago. All members enter the first-level combat state, and the combat forces are ready for landing operations. For justice, the criminals who attacked celestial dragons must not be allowed to escape. At this time on the sea, on a large battleship, in charge of commanding the fleet on behalf of Hack Admiral, the tall Vice Admiral Frank stood at the bow. This elite Vice Admiral of the naval headquarters, wearing a marine, wearing a righteous cloak, with a cold and serious face, held a din mushy and issued orders to the entire fleet. What is that? Is it a female giant? What is next to her? The sun and thundercloud with a mask? A children's painting? The intelligence says that among the criminals who attacked celestial dragons, there is a giant girl. She rushed to the coast. Adjust the muzzle and prepare to fire. The Marines, who were armed with live ammunition and ready to land, widened their eyes, looking at the strange thundercloud with anthropomorphic masks like cotton candy, flying towards this huge figure from the sky above Sabaody Archipelago. For Point 4 was a little shocked. Subconsciously, he was full of vigilance and stood up. Mama, Zeus, looking at the two large battleships that were in a straight line from his perspective, Linlin grinned and gave a direct order. First, attack these Marine, say hello, and teach them a lesson. Here, Lord Linlin. Whether it was the thundercloud Hera floating beside him or the thundercloud Zeus under his feet, they all responded. Hiss, chirp. The next moment, they instantly entered the combat mode. The originally kind face became like a demon, with a black body and amazing lightning flashing. And they all opened their mouths. The dazzling lightning that made people tremble with fear gathered there. Shock the thunder. Chapter 86. Horror. Demonic combination hiss, chirp. In an instant, Zeus and Hera, two top-level thunderclouds, spit out amazing lightning together and merged directly together. Crackle. The pale lightning was dazzling. In an instant, the lightning that merged together turned into a huge lightning beam. It blasted straight towards the warship in front. What is that? Lightning? Are you kidding? Damn it, I can't avoid it. F on the sea. On the top-level battleship, that was the first to bear the brunt. A Marine staff member widened his eyes. Then his face changed drastically and screamed in fear. But they didn't have much time at all. In an instant, accompanied by countless screams, the terrifying lightning directly penetrated the entire top-level battleship, causing it to disintegrate and fall into pieces. Moreover, it continued to attack the second huge battleship in the back. It penetrated it directly and smashed it into pieces. A terrifying blow. How is it possible? In an instant, two top-level battleships were completely destroyed. The Marines on other warships around were all stunned. They opened their mouths wide and sweated. Some were shivering. Mama, it's quite powerful, Linlin said excitedly. Hey, Linlin, this won't do. In the spiritual space, 33 figures appeared there. Gerd put his hands on his waist and scolded Linlin unhappily. You killed all these guys at once. How are we going to harvest souls next? Sorry, I was too excited just now and forgot it. Linlin scratched his head and said embarrassedly, I will pay attention next time. Don't worry. Just leave it to me. Beep. Enemy attack. All alert. All fleets adjust the muzzle and fire at that female giant. Damn. Is it a capable person? What a terrible guy. The loud and sharp alarm sounded constantly on the sea. Those frightened and well-trained Marines did not completely lose their sense of proportion. They reacted immediately and entered the combat state one after another. Although they were not panicked, They began to get busy with the tense and orderly division of labor. The artillery personnel adjusted the muzzle, and a large number of shells were loaded on the iron frame and pushed out directly. One by one, the cannons began to load. Prepare to fire. Fire! With the commander's order. One by one, the triple main cannons spewed out flames one after another. A large number of shells continued to bombard Linlin, who was flying low on the thundercloud Zeus. Mama, the night demon is attacking. In an instant, before the shells could hit her, the blood-colored mist exploded there, and Linlin's whole body disintegrated. Puff, Lingling, squeak, squeak, thousands of vampire bats. They flapped their wings and flew directly there, lying down towards the warships. What is that? Bats. Don't care what they are. Just shoot them. BB. Looking at the vampire bats flying out continuously, a large number of Marines were stunned. But he reacted quickly, raised his gun, and aimed it the first time, ready to fight. When they approached the range, they pulled the trigger and fired. Out! Countless bullets rushed over. They shot at the vampire bats one after another. However, there were bursts of metal clashing sounds, and some even produced sparks. They seemed to be really invulnerable. They were not injured at all and did not fall down. They still came with unabated momentum and attacked at an astonishing speed, like a stream of purple and black light. What? What happened? The bullet was bounced. Damn it, it should have hit the head. These bats, are they all immortal? No, they are rushing up. Go to hell, damn bats. Burn them to death with fire. The Marines' faces changed drastically. Looking at the vampire bats that flew up in the blink of an eye, revealing their sharp teeth, everyone couldn't help but feel a little numb. Many people fired continuously, and some people directly chopped up with swords. There was even a Marine who took out a flamethrower. Pooh, Lingling, what's going on? Aren't these bats afraid of fire? No, they can't be burned to death at all. Violent flames gushed out. They flooded the vampire bats, but they were completely incapable of threatening them. They flapped their wings and pounced on them one after another. What? Bang! Clang. Seeing this, the Marines were shivering and could only shoot wildly, trying to shoot the densely packed vampire bats that kept biting them. However, to their horror, guns and cannons were completely unable to shake these invulnerable vampire bats. Even swords and knives would break them directly when they were chopped on, leaving these Marines dumbfounded. But the next moment, they were pounced on by these vampire bats with exaggerated power. Some were disemboweled by the blade-like bat wings. Some were hit so hard that their bones and tendons were broken, and they flew backwards like cannonballs. Then they were bitten by the sharp teeth, which tore their skin. They screamed one by one. These vampire bats are extremely powerful and extremely ferocious. Even the well-trained Marine soldiers were unable to catch them. They would break free and bite them again. Puff! What was even more terrifying was that the moment they were bitten, the blood in their bodies kept pouring out like a faucet that could not be stopped. Moreover, it seemed as if their souls were about to leave their bodies, and their bodies could not move, and they could not resist at all. On several nearby warships, the scene was like hell. Countless Marines were directly sucked dry of blood and turned into mummies that made people's scalps numb. Moreover, their souls were directly sucked away. The death was horrifying. It was terrifying. 138. On a large battleship, Hera's vice admiral held a samurai sword in his hand. He swung the blade, wrapped with Haki with all his strength, and chopped the attacking vampire bats fiercely, but was hit by the exaggerated force that kept coming up, translating his hands to numbness. With the help of observation, Haki was warned. His hair stood up, and he turned his head without hesitation, narrowly avoiding the attack of a vampire bat. Shave! He pressed his feet and rushed out. He chopped off a vampire bat that was like a cannonball and lightning attacking a naval headquarters colonel. Hera's vice admiral, the naval headquarters colonel who had saved his life, breathed a sigh of relief. But in the blink of an eye, he let out a shrill scream and was suddenly pounced on by several vampire bats and bitten on his body. A hole. Looking at this scene, Hera's vice admiral, who was unable to rescue, was a little bloodshot. Damn, looking at the Marine soldiers around who were sucked dry of blood and turned into mummies. Even this naval headquarters vice admiral, who had been on the battlefield for a long time and was used to life and death, couldn't help but feel a little cold. What the hell is this thing? Mama, naval headquarters vice admiral. Some vampire bats gathered and vaguely condensed into a human head. A large amount of blood gushed out, turning into a giant devil-like mask, revealing gem-like scarlet eyes, looking down at Harris Vice Admiral in midair. Your strength is good, but it's not enough. Justice will not bow to evil. Harris Vice Admiral was furious. He stepped hard and rushed out. The samurai's sword wrapped around Haki and slashed fiercely at the head formed by a large number of bats. Go to hell. A light green blazing 873 slash broke through the air and attacked violently. It was merciless and slashed directly on the huge devil mask. The silky blood was directly split. A large number of bats were shaken apart, but they were not hurt at all. However, what made Harris Vice Admiral's face change drastically was, puff! In a blink of an eye, a large number of vampire bats flapped their wings. Even the blood that was splattered seemed to have a life force that was gathering again. That devilish bloody face reappeared. It floated in the air again. It was terrifying. It's just a monster. Looking at the demonic mask, staring at him, and laughing eerily. Harris Vice Admiral couldn't help sweating on his forehead. A little chilly. But the next moment, the huge demonic mask, it showed a ferocious look, accompanied by terrifying fluctuations. The gem-like scarlet pupils were filled with strange light. Life or death. All of a sudden, Harris Vice Admiral was shocked. He felt as if his soul was about to leave his body, and his face was terrified. The body was out of control, and soul matter visible to the naked eye emerged from his head. Life! He was sweating profusely and screamed subconsciously without being able to struggle. Ma, knock. 50 years of life. Linlin grinned grimly. A creepy hand formed by a large number of bats reached out. This Harris Vice Admiral is at least 40 years old, and 50 years of his lifespan has been taken away. I'm afraid he won't live for many days. Not everyone can live to be 100 years old. However, sometimes leaving the other person alive is more deterrent than killing him. The deterrent power of the soul fruit requires such a guy whose lifespan has been taken away to go back to Dali to publicize it. Those senior generals of the naval headquarters will definitely change color when they hear about it, and they will be more afraid and terrified. If they confront each other at that time, it will be easier to take away their souls. Oh, Chapter 87 Life Returned. Overwhelming power at this time. Sabaody Archipelago. The ruins of Peninsula No. 1 were completely destroyed. Swish, swish, swish. Sparks flew. Several huge claw-like slashes. Tearing the atmosphere apart, they came like lightning. But Ai Air dodged them without any danger, and they continued to slam into the back. But in the blink of an eye, a swift afterimage flashed. Iron Claw Hack, with its sharp teeth and ferocious teeth, was like lightning. Come! In an instant, it circled behind him again, and the sickle claws wrapped with high-level armament Haki slashed hard on Ai Air, who couldn't dodge in time. The claws seemed to slash on the human-shaped steel balloon, and they were completely unable to tear the tough skin. What? Iron Claw Hack widened his eyes. In order to maintain the strongest attack state, the opponent had to keep the flames on the back of his head extinguished, and he had completely given up defense. Although he had been mentally prepared for Ai Air, a natural monster, who was invulnerable to weapons and weapons. But when he really saw it, he was still a little shocked. Unbelievable. Bang! Although he relied on strong defense, no blood was splashed on the spot. And even if he didn't have time to dodge, he still relied on observation Haki's warning to avoid the vital points in the first time. But Ai Air's whole body was still shocked by the powerful impact. The unreachable figure staggered backwards, and the ground was crushed and collapsed. The shoulder that was hit was burning. Some of the pain was unbearable. Gee! Almost at the same time, his eyes were cold, and his reaction was extremely fast. He swung the huge barbarian dragon Big Hoko and slashed fiercely. Shave. Flash! Iron Claw Hak's hair stood up. There was no intention of hard confrontation at all, and he pressed down with his feet. Instantly, it turned into a residual image, disappeared from the spot, and retreated violently. Ai Air's attack missed. You dodged quickly enough, but the next moment, Ai Air, who had not yet turned his body, had a cold look in his eyes and murderous intent. He kept extinguishing the flames on the back of his head and maintained the attack state of the Lunaria tribe. His reaction was amazingly fast. Woo! A pair of huge black wings suddenly swung out at an incredible angle. Duet, broken army, swish swish. All of a sudden, a fierce hurricane swept over, and the atmosphere was directly crushed. Two terrifying huge slashes, powerful and unstoppable, attacked the Iron Claw Hak, who had just retreated violently. The Marine Admiral changed color. It was dangerous, and he dodged in a panic. The earth was ruthlessly cut open. Two huge trenches that were bottomless were left behind. It makes people's eyelids twitch violently. Cold sweat drips down. Shuenpa. Then, the terrifying figure stepped on the ground. It turned into a residual image and came. Oh, the sound of breaking the wind. The cold and shining barbarian dragon Hoko danced like a dragon. It tore the atmosphere and slashed up. Come! In a moment, the sickle claws wrapped with high-level armament Haki intertwined. Although it blocked this powerful blow, Iron Claw Hak was still shaken by the terrible force and flew backwards. The ground was constantly cracked when he stepped on it, and he barely stabilized his body. Is this your limit? Ai Air's tall figure swung the barbarian dragon Hoko. Glancing at the shoulder, the few clear claw marks were visible. Although there was no bloodline at all, there were some dark blue claw marks. Looking at the somewhat embarrassed admiral with a calm face, he said lightly, "The speed is indeed very fast, and the strength is remarkable. But if that's all, even if I don't use the power of the fruit or even exit the defensive state, you, the admiral of headquarters, can't really kill me." When the flame behind his head extinguished and he exited the defensive state, if he was hit by the Iron Claw Hak, he would indeed be injured, especially if he was hit in the vitals. He might be seriously injured. After all, even if he was a natural monster, his defense power was limited. Maybe the opponent couldn't tear his steel skin, but it didn't mean that he couldn't really hurt him. But he wasn't a dead man. How could he be so easily seriously injured by others if he stood there stupidly without dodging or evading and allowed others to attack him? At least, the Iron Claw Hak didn't have such strength. It's simply an unkillable monster. The Iron Claw Hak's face was solemn. He felt his claws were a little numb, and his eyes were fixed on Ai Air in front of him. But he was shocked. This guy, is he really only 17 years old? Such a huge body, and wielding such a heavy weapon. He could actually lift heavy objects with ease and repeatedly block the attacks from all directions of this Marine Admiral without any danger. No matter how fast he was, no matter from which angle the attack came, he could accurately predict and block. And his sword was fierce and flexible. And from time to time, he launched a strong and fierce counterattack, which was amazing, forcing this Marine Admiral to return empty-handed every time, and several times he was in danger. Relying on the greatly enhanced speed and strength of his ancient ability, Awakening, his sickle claws that were enough to cut gold and jade and tear everything apart, he had actually slashed on the opponent several times. But there was a sound of metal clashing, and it was completely unable to tear the opponent's tough skin. Kong, who had fought with the fallen angel Ai Air, also told the Marine Admiral that the opponent was invulnerable and could ignore damage. But because the flames on the back of the opponent's head had been burning for a long time, it was obvious that he was maintaining the unique defense state of the Lunaria tribe. He also thought that the opponent was able to block his attack by relying on the racial ability of the Lunaria tribe. The result was unexpected. After directly extinguishing the flames, sacrificing his own defense, greatly enhancing his own attack and speed, and entering the attack state of the fallen angel Ai Air, not only did his strength reach a higher level, he was incredibly strong, and his defense was still so exaggerated. The sickle claws that he was proud of still couldn't really tear through the steel balloon-like defense and severely injure the opponent. It made my scalp numb. What kind of monster is this? Still unwilling to use the power of the fruit, Iron Claw Hack looked at the other party and said indifferently, "What an arrogant guy. After all, I'm also the admiral of the naval headquarters. If you don't use the power of the fruit, you can't even see my shadow." That's what he said. But Iron Claw Hack was awed in his heart. He had already tried his best, but the opponent didn't use the power of the fruit at all, and didn't even use the ability of the Lunaria tribe to manipulate fire. He only relied on swordsmanship to fight against himself, the Marine Admiral. Such a comparison is terrifying. It's chilling. "Hey, let's see how far you can push me." Ai sneered. Then he directly stabbed the barbarian dragon, Big Hoko. With his fists clenched, he whispered, "Life return paper arts Wushun." From the beginning, he didn't really fight with the Iron Claw Admiral with a game mentality. He used the other party as a whetstone to test his years of practice and gain experience fighting with such a truly powerful person. Through fierce actual combat and fist-to-flesh fighting, he fully transformed the accumulation of these years of day and night and perseverance into a more powerful fighting force. Let the flower of power watered with blood and sweat truly bloom and bear fruit. Just now, he used the other party to fully verify his swordsmanship. Next, it's time for physical training. What? In the shocked eyes of Iron Claw Hack, Ai Er's head was blazing with flames, and the whole person was awe-inspiring, with muscles all over his body. Even the black wings behind him were trembling. The huge figure was shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. Swish! In a blink of an eye, the figure of 9 meters in height was compressed to 5 meters by him. It was only slightly taller than the 4-meter-tall Iron Claw Hack, who was an ancient species, sickle dragon form ability user, and in the awakened state of human beast form. You actually mastered the return of life. Looking at the fallen angel Ai who was completely different from before. At this moment, the opponent's body size was much smaller than before, almost equal to himself in human beast form, but the momentum was condensed, which made people tremble with fear. Iron Claw Hack's pupils shrank sharply, and he was somewhat shocked. He didn't expect that the fallen angel Ai not only mastered the return of life, and he actually cultivated this mystery to such an amazing degree. It was incredible. Very surprised, Ai mouth corners rose. Looking at this Marine Admiral, his eyes were full of sarcasm. "You just said that I can't even touch your shadow without the ability of the fruit? Sacrifice strength in exchange for speed?" Iron Claw Hack's eyes were stern, and he was ready. But he was still confident in his speed. After all, it's just a return of life. After all, he was also an awakened zone ability user of the ancient species, and the speed increase and enhancement he obtained were not comparable to those of ordinary zone ability users. Even a natural monster like the opponent could not rely on the return of life to catch up with him directly. That's not necessarily true. The flames on the back of his head went out directly. As a natural monster, Ai was not afraid of being hurt by Iron Claw Hack at all. He gave up the invincible defense state without hesitation and greatly enhanced his own strength, speed, reaction ability, etc. He offset the part of the power sacrificed by the return of life. He directly entered the strongest attack state. In a one-on-one duel, he was not afraid of being injured. He would not lose the courage to go all out and fight the strong because of fear of possible injury. This was not only enough confidence in his own strength, but also Ai firm belief in moving forward and fearlessly. Crackle. The right hand was raised, burning with raging flames. The atmosphere was distorted. He finally began to use the energy of the Lunaria people, which can manipulate fire naturally. Bang! In an instant, the ground collapsed. The awe-inspiring Ai who looked like a human-shaped beast and was 5 meters tall, disappeared like lightning. What? Relying on the warning of observation Haki, Iron Claw Hack's hair stood on end and his face changed. Without thinking, he retreated violently. Almost at the same time, his eyes blurred. The terrifying tall figure appeared there, like a flash of lightning. The sound of breaking through the air was whistling, and the heat wave rolled. A violent, huge fist, burning with raging flames, wrapped with high-level armament Haki, crushed over fiercely. The heat wave came to face. Let Iron Claw Hak's face change color. He wrapped his hands around Haki and blocked the attack. Boom! In a flash of lightning, Iron Claw Hak's face twisted. The terrifying flaming fist directly pressed on his claws. The terrible power came in an instant, making his arms burning and numb. He was directly burned by the terrible high temperature. Bang! There was no surprise. The Admiral of Headquarters was like an arrow shot from a string. He was blasted out like a cannonball by the unimaginable power. Hiss! What kind of monster is this? He looked horrified, his eyes widened in disbelief, staring at the terrifying figure. He never thought that the other party would be so fast. Moreover, when using the life return paper art's martial body, he could still exert such a terrifying power. Fallen Angel Ai Air, Chapter 88. Marine Admiral, nothing special. Shuanpa. The next moment, the wind whistled. Bang, the foot pressed down, and the wings behind spread out. Ai Air's violent tall figure left a swift afterimage. Like a ghost, he flew backwards like a cannonball, and before he could stabilize his body, Iron Claw Hak chased him relentlessly. Crackle! The fire shot up to the sky, and the heat wave rolled. Countless bubbles in the whole area exploded one after another. The moisture in the moist and soft soil around was directly evaporated, and the big trees around were ignited. The fierce fist print was surrounded by blazing flames and carried terrible high temperatures. Wrapped with high-level armament Haki, it flowed there. Fury panicked and bombarded. Shave flash, as if being stared at by some prehistoric beast. Maintaining the amazing human beast form, the black flame cloud lingered all over the body, and the hideous Hak Admiral's pupils shrank sharply, and his hair stood up. He stomped his feet hard. He showed a very terrifying speed. Before the violent storm-like fist prints came to kill him, he disappeared from the spot like lightning, narrowly avoiding the terrible final blow. Moreover, he was also extremely weak. He launched a fierce counterattack without hesitation. Swish! In an instant, a swift figure appeared behind Ai Air. The cold and shining claws like sickles wrapped around the high-level Haki, Thor, Iron Claw, Flying Blade. Dead. Several amazing blazing slashes broke through the air, attacked Ai Air's head, neck, shoulders, and other parts violently. But as a Lunaria, Ai Air completely gave up his own defense that ignored damage and entered a full-scale attack state, reacting extremely quickly. With the special observation Haki, he could anticipate the enemy's moves. He completely predicted the opponent's psychology and understood his intentions. He narrowly avoided the attack. What? Is this all you can do? Ai Air was full of vigor and sarcasm. He didn't even look at the torn earth. The black fists of Lacquer 980 were full of veins and carried great power. They were burning with blazing flames, emitting a high temperature that made people unbearable and horrified. He blasted at the Iron Claw Admiral. Armament Haki hardening. He was despised again and again. Even though Iron Claw Hak claimed to be very calm, he was still aroused by his pride as a Marine Admiral. He was surrounded by black flames, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. He also clenched his claws into fists, covered with Haki, not willing to be outdone. A fierce battle with Ai Air in front of him. Bang, bang, a fierce battle. It was presented on the Sabaody archipelago, accompanied by countless flames splashing. Two figures with terrifying momentum were punching fiercely there, constantly confronting and fighting. But in the battle of power between the two, the Iron Claw Admiral was obviously completely at a disadvantage and was constantly beaten back, and the ground was cracked. In an instant, smoke and dust rolled. He was directly pushed horizontally for dozens or hundreds of meters. The ground under his feet plowed out two long ditches, which was shocking. Hiss! Hak Admiral's face changed drastically. His fists were burned black and bloody. He was sweating profusely as he flew out like a cannonball, and he felt that the water in his body was about to evaporate. It was not just the fists burned by the high temperature that were a little hot. Even his two arms were numb and trembling unnaturally. It was about to break. This monster, he stopped fighting. His figure kept jumping and flashing. He waved his cold sickle claws. He attacked the fallen angel Ai Air from different blind spots. It's useless. Your fate is only defeat. Ai Air was extremely strong and shouted there. He predicted the opponent's trajectory and punched hard. He kept blasting out. Clang, clang, sparks splashed. Ai Air kept dodging and blocking while also launching a counterattack. They all showed quite amazing speeds, and they were constantly moving at super high speeds, so fast that the naked eye could not see clearly. Every collision was accompanied by a sharp and piercing sound of metal clashing. Moreover, the fierce energy was accompanied by rolling air waves, and there were occasional splashes of slashes, which caused a large number of trees and buildings to collapse one after another. Previously, he fought hard with the fallen angel Ai Air. Not only were his fists burned, but they were also blasted into a bloody mess. Such injuries would have been quite serious for other people. But as an ancient species, Hak had the ability of the sickle dragon form, and his fruit ability had already been developed to the awakening level. His recovery and endurance were naturally beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Not to mention that he recovered in the blink of an eye. But as time went by, the wounds had actually begun to scab over, which was shocking. Bien. Time kept passing. Two violent figures kept fighting. Fists and feet collided, fists collided, claws and sweet. You came and I went, fiercely and brutally. From Peninsula number 1 to Peninsula number 5, and from Peninsula number 5 to Peninsula number 13, the ruins along the way witnessed the terrible confrontation between the two powerful men. The devastated land was full of scars and cracks. It was numbing, with the life-return paper arts whooshin. In the strongest attack state of the Lunaria tribe, Ai Air showed his power, which completely overwhelmed the Marine Admiral. Although he was still too young and his strength needed to be improved, his speed was still a little slower without using the ability of the mythical beast species Quetzalcoatl form. He could not directly catch up with Ironclaw Hak, a Marine Admiral who had the rare ability of the ancient Zoan species and had already awakened. But it can be said that the difference was not much. At least he was fully able to deal with Ironclaw Hak's attack, not to mention being able to handle it with ease and suppress the opponent completely. But he had already begun to gain the upper hand. Swish! At this moment, Ironclaw Hak, who was running wildly, caught a flaw. The beast-like figure was like thunder and lightning, unreachable, and pounced on him. Handgun sickle, chi, the sickle-like claws, carrying terrible power, pierced like lightning. It pierced directly into Ai Air's right abdomen, who had just punched hard and had not yet had time to retract his strength. But what shocked him was that the sharp sickle claws could not pierce the opponent's extremely tough skin, as if they were piercing a steel balloon, and pressed it into it. Boom! The powerful impact wave. Ai Air, who was a natural monster, Dad, was shocked and his whole face changed. He felt the blood in his abdomen surging and his mouth sweet. He flew backwards like a cannonball. I caught you. However, in a flash of lightning, at the moment of flying backwards, Ai Air, with blood on the corner of his mouth, looked fierce. The right leg that had been accumulating power for a long time, wrapped in armed color, turned into an afterimage. Like a black rocket, Wolf squatted out. What? Ironclaw, Hak's face turned pale. He dodged and dodged while trying to block with his claws. But he was a step too late, and the violent kick landed directly on the abdomen of the Ironclaw Admiral. Bang! It was a powerful and horrifying kick. His abdomen collapsed, and he felt as if all his internal organs had shifted. Wow! Hak Admiral's face was distorted, and he spat out blood. He stared at the cold-faced, fallen angel Ai Air. The ferocious figure flew out like an arrow. The loud noises continued, and the smoke and dust rolled. The trees were broken mercilessly, and the embarrassed figure smashed into the ruins. As expected of a Marine Admiral, it's really not simple. In a blink of an eye, The embarrassed figure rushed out of the ruins. Wiping the bloodline from the corner of his mouth, Ai looked stern. After all, he represented the highest combat power of the naval headquarters. Admiral, his strength is far beyond that of an ordinary strongman. If it were anyone else, I'm afraid he would have been ripped open by the indestructible sickle claws and would have died. Only a natural monster like him dared to be so crazy and exchange injuries with Iron Claw Hack without using his own ability of the fantasy beast Quetzalcoatl form. Even when he was in a state of life, return, paper arts martial arts. Although his strength was reduced, to a certain extent, his internal organs were greatly strengthened after being greatly compressed. Even so, it was not so comfortable to take that blow just now. Swish, suddenly, a sound of breaking through the air came, in the direction of Peninsula number 35. A bunch of flares rose into the sky. A cloud of red smoke filled the sky. Hearing the movement, he subconsciously looked at the red smoke exploding in the sky. Just as he was about to pursue the victory, Ai rushed out. Air paused. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. Can't you sit still? At the same time, on the sea, there was a bloody and screaming large warship. Countless vampire bats were constantly attacking the Marines, who were firing desperately or waving swords and slashing continuously. Hey, is it going to start? In the air, a bloody devil's face appeared there. He smiled excitedly. Then we have to hurry to fallen angel Ai Air, and at this moment, on the ruined Peninsula number 2, an angry roar echoed. Iron Claw Hack's bloody and extremely embarrassed figure ran out of the ruins like a violent beast. Surrounded by black flames, he had a hideous face and a bloodline on the corner of his mouth. He stared at Ai Air fiercely, his eyes full of murderous intent. Come! Sparks splashed. The sound of collision that made people's teeth ache echoed. In an instant, two terrifying figures collided again. Ai Air wrapped armament Haki around his right arm, easily blocking the shiny black, cold sickle claws. He looked directly at Iron Claw Hack in front of him. I have to say, after the ancient Zoan species awakened, the recovery ability is really strong enough. Dash then. A low roar. Like a prehistoric beast, the breath that makes people tremble is filled. In the somewhat discolored eyes of Hack Admiral, Ai Air's body size increased again at a speed visible to the naked eye, and a drastic change occurred. Are you finally willing to use the fruit ability? He pressed his feet. A strong sense of crisis made Iron Claw Hack retreat violently and immediately distanced himself. He couldn't help but take a deep breath, and his muscles were tense, full of vigilance and alertness. This Lunaria monster had forced him to go all out before, even without using his fruit ability. Now he is even stronger. Isn't this just what you wanted? He has golden horns on his head. He is covered with scales and has 4 wings on his back. He is dragging a long snake tail and is no less than 10 meters tall. Ai Air's eyes are extremely cold. He looks down at the solemn and ready Iron Claw Hack with a cold and fierce murderous intent. Thanks to you, I know that Marine Admiral is just like this. But the warm-up ends here. Next, you will die. Arrogant. Boom. Chapter 89. All-round crushing broken iron claws, part 2. Shuinpa. What? But the next moment, the flames behind his head suddenly went out. Ai Air went straight into the strongest attack state. Hiss, 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 hiss. The hair stood up, and strong electric light gushed out all over his body. The strands of electric current constantly stimulated the nerve cells of the body, increasing and strengthening its own speed to ultimate. Swish! The tall and impressive figure was like thunder and lightning. It disappeared in an instant and appeared in front of him like a ghost. The huge fist print covered with scales, wrapped with high-level armament Haki, crushed the atmosphere and blasted up. So fast, Iron Claw Hack's pupils shrank sharply, and he was cold. The speed displayed by Ai Air at this moment was simply terrifying. It was not inferior to him, the ancient awakened ability user, and even better. Bang! In a flash of lightning. Wrapped with Haki, crossed his arms and blocked in front of him. But the terrifying power still made Iron Claw Hack change color, especially the exaggerated electric current, which was even more shocking and flowing. Together with the crossed arms in front of him, they were all crushed by the huge fist. What? The whole person's eyes bulged out, revealing an unbelievable look. He couldn't help but distort his face and spit out blood there. Like an arrow from a string, it flew backwards like a cannonball. It was terrifying. The loud noises echoed. A large number of trees were broken in half. In the end, the embarrassed figure was directly blasted into the ruins. The tree world is coming. Ai Er's eyes were stern. The outstretched right fist was clenched suddenly. Boo! Without any signs. In the distance, a large number of trees around seemed to come alive. Transformed into sharp spears, the tip was directly wrapped with black Haki, all stabbed out violently. Crushed towards the embarrassed figure in the ruins. Wood chips and soil flew, smoke and dust filled the air. Ai Er's figure was like lightning, flapping his wings there. In an instant, he caught the barbarian dragon Hoko that was surrounded by huge vines and sent up from the number 1 peninsula not far away. The powerful observation Haki firmly locked the iron claw hack in the billowing smoke and dust, and his figure and specific situation could not be seen clearly. Ai Erbafu spear. He was full of lightning. The momentum was awe-inspiring and kept rising. Swinging the barbarian dragon Hoko, he slashed it fiercely in the air. Wagwa, swish, swish. The sharp sound of breaking through the air echoed. A cylindrical sword energy shock wave with a diameter of no less than 20 to 30 meters was unstoppable. Crushed there, destroyed with everything. Nothing could stop the terrifying shock wave. The entire peninsula and even the surrounding peninsulas were shaken under this powerful and unreasonable violent attack. The second peninsula was ruthlessly torn apart and penetrated. It continued to move forward and hit the sea. On the sea, a warship was lying there, under the horrified eyes of countless Marines. A huge shock wave came straight out from Peninsula Number 2, just brushing past it. On the vast sea, huge waves were set off, plowing out a huge trench, extending straight to the endless depths of the sea. Woo, splatter, splatter. The wind swept, and the waves rolled. The large warship that escaped the disaster and was almost hit was almost overturned by the fierce wind and waves. It's horrifying, however, before these Marines could breathe a sigh of relief. Ooh, a color-changing sound of breaking through the air was whistling. In a blink of an eye, another terrifying, huge shock wave came out. Boom, boom. This time they were far less lucky than before. The entire warship was directly submerged and torn apart from the front, turning into countless fragments. BIL on Peninsula Number 2. The extremely embarrassed figure ran at an astonishing speed. It was Iron Claw Hack, who was surrounded by strange flames, had a ferocious face, and was covered in blood. This Marine Admiral no longer had the usual high spirits, and used the speed of the ancient Zoan species after awakening to the ultimate. But it was not for attacking. Instead, he was constantly fleeing and hiding dirter. Woo! The lightning flashed, and the four wings fluttered. Ai Er was so fast, his face was grim, and he chased him relentlessly. Can you escape? At this moment, he was like a human map cannon. The momentum was terrifying, violent, and murderous. The special observation Haki that was born with him locked onto the Iron Claw Hack firmly and completely predicted its trajectory. Wave the barbarian dragon, Hoko again. Hit it fiercely. Wagwa. Swish, swish. A huge shock wave with an exaggerated range blasted out. The strong sense of crisis made the Iron Claw Hack's pupils shrank sharply, and he pressed his feet. He jumped with all his strength and ran out. A loud rumble, smoke and dust filled the air. The terrifying shock wave plowed the earth like a broken bamboo. It left behind an exaggerated huge ditch. It made people sweat. A disheveled figure kept rolling out there, raising a large amount of smoke and dust. This monster, covering a shoulder that was already bleeding just by being hit by the giant sword shockwave. Iron Claw Hack looked ugly. The giant tribe's unique skill Ai Erbafu spear. It was simply prepared for this monster with an amazing size and infinite strength. After using the fruit ability of the mythical beast species Quetzalcoatl form, the fallen angel Ai entered the human beast form, abandoned the defense of the Lunaria tribe, and entered the strongest attack state. Whether it's speed, strength, or reaction ability, they have all gained unimaginable increases. It was able to swing Ai continuously without considering the consumption. Erbafu's spear. The terrifying sword energy shock wave was too powerful, and the range was quite exaggerated, and the speed was even more terrifying. Although he had tried his best to dodge just now, he was still hit by the shoulder directly. Even so, he almost lost one hand. You dodged quite quickly. A burst of wind came. The tall figure with violent momentum. Bathed in the dazzling lightning, it chased again. Even the huge spear tip was intertwined with amazing lightning, which made people tremble with fear. Locking on the Iron Claw hack, who was in a state of embarrassment and had not yet stabilized his body, he was not prepared to give the other party a chance to breathe. The extremely sharp, intertwined with lightning, the barbarian dragon's big hoko was swung diagonally. Full of contempt and sarcasm. Try to hide again. You were just a pirate. Stop being so arrogant. He was furious and stuck to the bottom. Covered with Haki, became dark and shiny. Surrounded by black flames, he turned violently and turned into a residual image. He rushed out without showing any weakness. I'm the head of the naval headquarters. Woo! He turned into a fierce tornado while spinning at super high speed. Like a ferocious dragon roaring there, baring its teeth and claws. Scythe-like claws wrapped around the high-level Haki, the tips of which were shining with cold light, actually closed together directly. Buzz. Invisibly, it emitted a powerful shock wave, distorting the atmosphere. Justice Whirlwind. Iron Claw Sharp Spear. The Iron Claw hack in the eye of the storm. It was like a sharp and extremely sharp spear that could penetrate and tear through everything. Like an extremely swift arrow, carrying a terrible impact force. Piercing out. Lousy killed the Marine Admiral. Ai grinned. The momentum is impressive, and the Haki is unparalleled. He held the barbarian dragon Hokori tightly with both hands, and his veins bulged. The strands of electric light kept jumping and flashing. Wrapped with the high-level armament Haki, the barbarian dragon Hokori crushed the atmosphere and waved it out. Weigua! Swish! Swish! A terrifying giant sword energy shock wave rolled out. It collided with the fierce tornado. The sharp black, indestructible tornado sharp spear. It collided violently with the extremely terrifying, powerful shock wave. Crack, crack! However, there was no accident. Facing that extremely terrifying blow, the indestructible, proud sickle Iron Claw, it broke apart inch by inch. Fallen angel, Ai Iron Claw hack roared unwillingly. The tornado that he had swung with all his might was directly swallowed up and crushed mercilessly. The unstoppable shock wave struck him, the eye of the storm, like lightning, and submerged him. His pupils suddenly dilated. Odoeo. Chapter 90. Death of Admiral, belated arrival of Marine Marshal Boom. The loud noise shook the sky. The entire Sabati archipelago was shaken. A terrifying cylindrical shock wave was unstoppable and pierced through the entire island in an instant. Countless pirates, residents, nobles, and merchants who had not left the island but had already hidden because of the attack on celestial dragons screamed in fear. They almost fell and had their heads broken. All the trees, buildings, and pedestrians that blocked the way were ruthlessly torn apart, submerged, and completely cleared out. Only a huge, semi-cylindrical gully was left, although compared to the vast land area of Sabati archipelago, its diameter is not particularly exaggerated and can be ignored. But it pierced through the entire Sabati archipelago. Extending from the forest ruins of Peninsula No. 2 to the direction of the sea, is indescribably shocking and terrifying. Hualala. A large amount of seawater poured in and continued to fill in, formed a river channel of 20 to 30 meters wide, separating this dreamlike island. Divided into two. 753 IZOX. In a mess of ruins, the bloody and embarrassed figure stood up a little staggeringly. The black flames around him were like evil spirits from hell, which made people shudder. His face was covered in blood, and he raised his irregularly broken and jagged claws, looking unwillingly at the tall figure who was chasing him. Fallen angel Ai Erbafu. So an ancient species awakening is really difficult enough, and he can actually stand up again, carrying 4 wings. The flames behind his head. The tall Ai is extremely impressive. He looked down at the other party, full of arrogance and contempt. But, can you dance again? Admiral. He spoke each word with a pause, but it was like a blade. It pierced the heart of Marine Admiral Hack, the Iron Claw. He has always been proud of his ability to rise from a commoner to a high-ranking spy in the naval headquarters. In order to defend justice, he stepped onto the cruel battlefield for the first time, risking his life again and again to fight those brutal pirates. From a passionate young man full of ideals, he experienced all kinds of darkness within the world government and the Marines. Although he thought he was not in cahoots with them, he had a compromise for justice. Today, the Admiral of Headquarters, Iron Claw Hack, was actually defeated by a 17-year-old kid. He was defeated head-on. Don't get carried away, you little kid from the Leah tribe. Admiral Hack couldn't accept it. His face was distorted, and veins popped out all over his body. He was hysterical, and he roared, "I am Iron Claw Hack. As long as I have a breath left, I will not lose. Shave." Before he finished speaking, he stomped his feet. He showed amazing speed and rushed up. He lost his claws, but he still had his fists. He lost his fists, but he still had his feet. He lost his feet, but he still had his teeth. The justice of Iron Claw, Hack would never bow to evil. The sound of breaking through the air kept coming. The fierce fist prince wrapped around armament Haki. Like a storm, he madly bombarded Ai Erbafu. Bang, bang! The fierce offensive. It bombarded continuously. But Ai Erbafu was too lazy to even block it. The flames behind his head rose, and he let the opponent bombard him continuously. Bang, bang! The ground cracked, and he was bombarded backwards. But no matter how hard Iron Claw Hack tried, still unscathed, you lost your sense of proportion, your punches were disorganized, and you looked strong but were weak. His eyes were stern. The flame at the back of his head went out again. In an instant, his strength, speed, and reaction ability were greatly enhanced. The barbarian dragon Daihoko tore through the air and slashed out. "You are just this level after all. Come." Hack Admiral's face changed color with horror, and his hair stood up. His crossed arms wrapped around Haki, barely blocking. His arms were numb from the violent force. He felt as if his arm bones were about to break. Fallen angel Ai Erbafu. Iron Claw Hack roared. But no matter how unwilling he was still hit by a powerful blow and flew out like a cannonball. Woo! The next moment, the 4 wings suddenly flapped. The fierce wind pressure, carrying countless wind blades. It rushed out and completely submerged Iron Claw Hack, who was flying backwards and had not yet stabilized his body. Iron Claw Hack, covered with Haki, barely escaped. However, the next moment, the flames behind Ai Erbafu's head went out. He rushed over like a ghost and flashed behind Iron Claw Hack. What? Hack Admiral was shocked. He was a little cold and retreated without hesitation. His observation Haki did not predict the opponent's movement trajectory. You can't even keep basic calm, and you still want to predict my actions? There was no chance for him to dodge. Ai Erbafu, who had been accumulating power for a long time, was murderous and swung the high-raised, cold-shining barbarian dragon Great Hoko. Wrapped with high-level armament Haki, he slashed at him fiercely. A flash of cold light. The atmosphere was torn apart. A terrifying, huge slash pierced through. Rows of towering trees were cut off mercilessly, and they flew away without stopping. At the same time, blood splashed, and 2 bloody claws flew up directly. Iron Claw Hack, the Marine Admiral, howled and retreated there. Both hands were cut off by Ai Erbafu. A hole! Iron Claw Hack's face was distorted and sweaty. Infuriated, the ferocious right leg claw kicked violently. Tempest kick, long long. A huge slash broke through the air. It turned into an extremely fierce dragon-shaped slash. Roaring towards Ai Air, it came a kill. It's just a dying struggle. Ai Air didn't even raise his eyelids. The barbarian dragon Hoko in his hand was swung unceremoniously. Kong, the amazing dragon-shaped slash was blocked and was directly picked up and flew out, straight to the distant land. The next moment, he was full of murderous intent. For wings fluttered together, carrying a fierce hurricane, and flew out. All of a sudden, he came to the sky above Hack, with bloody arms and blood all over his body, full of resentment and unwillingness, gritting his teeth and staring at his iron claws. You just said that I will be hunted down to hell. Looking down from above, looking down at the other party, Ai Air's eyes were cold, without any mercy or softness, only endless murderous intent. These were the government's lackeys, when they were endlessly hunting down their own family and other survivors of the Lunaria tribe all over the world. How could they have been half soft? Then you go to the end of hell first and wait for your masters. I will send them down one by one next. The strands of lightning kept interweaving. The huge and cold barbarian dragon, Ohoko, danced like a whirlwind. Carrying unimaginable power, he chopped down mercilessly. Then, slowly repent why you are their dog. 0.7 a frog at the bottom of the well. The foundation of the world government is as huge as you can imagine. Ironclaw Hack was unwilling to sit and wait for death. Roaring and jumping up, his legs kicked out fiercely. Tempest kick, double flying dragon. Dragon thunder flash. The terrifying slash. Carrying strong lightning, like a crushing blow, it tore apart the two roaring dragon-shaped attacks. Straight through. Cook. A hole just then. A figure with amazing momentum was constantly stepping on the air and breaking into the Sabati archipelago at a very amazing speed. Hearing the huge movement, Haman's William, the Marine Marshal who rushed over as soon as he received the news of the appearance of the fallen angel Ai Air, couldn't help but change color in horror. He ran towards the battlefield as soon as possible, but he was a step late, after all, and saw a scene from a distance that made him tear his eyes out. A bloody head was ruthlessly cut off. Hack. Chapter 91. Impact Fruit? The Knights of God? Fallen angel Ai Air, in a moment, looking at the bloody head rolling on the ground. Haman's William's eyes were red, furious, revealing a murderous intent. He rushed up in astonishing speed. UBD kid, you dare to? Biceps throbbing, the huge right fist, veins bulging, gathering a halo visible to the naked eye. He mercilessly blasted at the tall Ai Air, just as shock. Hissing and chirping, lightning flashed. Ai Air, with horns on his head, covered with scales, and a ferocious face, was amazing. Hey, what am I afraid of? He bared his fangs and looked directly at the extremely angry and murderous Marine, showing no weakness at all. Swinging the barbarian dragon Great Hoko, which was intertwined with electric light and shining with cold light. Fighting forward. Wagwa. The atmosphere was ruthlessly crushed. The fierce sword energy shockwave and the huge, violent impact collided fiercely. Boom! The loud noise shook the sky. The bright light was dazzling. The entire peninsula number 2 and even the other peninsulas around it trembled violently. The earth was directly torn apart ruthlessly. The white light visible to the naked eye kept expanding there. Two terrifying shock waves collided and squeezed each other. Oh so fast, accompanied by fierce wind pressure. Two extremely terrifying conquerors Haki erupted there. One after another, black and red lightning intertwined violently, spreading and spreading in all directions, covering the sky of the entire island. I don't know when. The sky was already covered with dark clouds. The mighty clouds were pulled by the two powerful auras and kept surging there. It was indescribably shocking. The countless civilian pirates and noble merchants who were too close. All of them rolled their eyes and foamed at the mouth. Fell there. The waves on the sea were surging and surging, one blue and one black, two auras visible to the naked eye, almost materialized, with Peninsula number 2 as the center. Countless rocks and plants were directly blown away. It was like two huge hemispheres covering the entire island, confronting each other there. They kept pushing and fighting each other. Is that Conqueror's collision? On a large warship, countless bats gathered into a tall figure. Looking at the exaggerated and shocking scene of Sabeti Archipelago, I couldn't help but be moved. Did they get here so quickly? Linlin, Lily, Gerd, and others naturally knew what the red flare on Sabeti Archipelago was. It was sent by the intelligence chief of the Fallen Angel Pirates, the Magic Witch Sally, to remind them that the Naval Headquarters Marshal may have left Marineford and was coming quickly. However, Charlotte Linlin was not unacceptable. It is normal for a strong man like Marine Marshal to have such a powerful conqueror's Haki. After all, even Sengoku, who had just fought with her, had such qualifications. Not to mention the Marshal who stood at the top of the world's marine. Boom! Just at this moment, on Sabeti Archipelago, two terrifying and arguing auras swept towards the sky and exploded. Everything returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. But what remained was the mess on the ground. It made people sweat. Marshal Marine, on the messy number 2 peninsula, one tall and one short, two murderous figures confronted each other there. Although their sizes were not equal, the auras of the two were equally amazing. It made people tremble with fear and dare not approach. Paramecia Impact Fruit is indeed a very good ability. Ai Erbafu, who was tall, had a ferocious face under the human beast form, and was no less than 10 meters tall. Looking down at the Marine Marshal, who was about 60 years old and had black short hair, but his two policemen were already a little gray. The corners of his mouth were raised, full of sarcasm. However, it seems that you, the Marine Marshal, although you have the qualifications of conquerors, have not mastered the power of conqueror's entanglement at all. Is it because of your poor qualifications that you can't comprehend it? Ai Erbafu was not surprised at all that this Marine Marshal had the qualifications of conquerors. After all, no matter what, he is a person standing at the top of the Marine. Even if he has conqueror's Haki, it is normal. But it is obvious that in such an angry situation just now, it can be said that he has already used all his strength, and he did not use conqueror's entanglement. It's not that Hammond's William showed mercy or concealed his shortcomings. It's that the other party simply didn't master that power. And Ai Erbafu himself, although he has not yet comprehended the power of conqueror's entanglement. But after so many years of continuous exploration and experimentation, he is not completely in vain. With his unique talent and deep accumulation, he has already reached the final step, and he just needs an opportunity. He believed that it would not be long before he could truly master conqueror's entanglement, an advanced technique that only a very few people were qualified to master. Sharp-tongued God, Hammond's Williams' eyes were gloomy. He stared at the fallen angel Ai Erbafu in front of him. He glanced at the bloody headless corpse in the distance, clenched his fists tightly, and couldn't help but bulge his veins. The head of the Hack Admiral had already flown away in the aftermath of the collision between the two. However, he did not notice that in the corner of the forest, a vampire bat grabbed a bloody head and pulled out a soul visible to the naked eye from it. I didn't expect that the fish that slipped through the net back then actually has such strength. Even the Marine Admiral is not your opponent. We really underestimated you. The Marine Marshal's face was livid. While he was extremely angry, he couldn't help but feel a little dignified in his heart. He thought he had already looked up to this natural monster of the Lunaria tribe. Unexpectedly, he still underestimated the other party. Hammond's William knew the strength of Hack Admiral very well. Although he was not particularly strong, he was definitely a real monster. His level was not comparable to that of the Pegasus Admiral who was responsible for guarding the Holy Land Mariewa and took the Admiral's position by relying on the back door. But he never expected that even Ironclaw Hack was no match for the fallen angel Ai Erbafu and was defeated so quickly. Even when he heard the news, he rushed to support him without stopping. He was beheaded by the opponent. Fallen angel Ai Erbafu. Hammond's William was about to say something else. Swoosh! suddenly accompanied by the sharp sound of 223 breaking through the air. A bunch of flares suddenly rose into the sky from an inconspicuous corner of Sabeti archipelago. A cloud of yellow smoke, different from the previous one, spread in the sky. The Marine Marshal couldn't help but stare. Is this a flare? Ai Air on the opposite side showed a playful look. Is it finally coming out? Yellow flare, not other colors. And at this moment, on the sea in the distance, on the large warship covered with mummies, which made people inexplicably creepy. Seeing this, the female giant, who was no less than 20 meters tall, couldn't help but shrink her pupils, and her face changed slightly. Ai Air, the most mysterious knights of God mentioned by Oni-chan, have they all been dispatched directly? After all, it involves the kidnapping of celestial dragons and the killing of celestial dragons. No matter how much the world government pays attention to it, it is not too much. This female giant, who was no less than 20 meters tall, seemed to be talking to herself. But what came out her mouth suddenly became Gerd's voice. Linlin, don't worry about it for now. The souls have been harvested almost, and I feel that the total amount of souls I can store is almost at the limit. Get rid of these guys as soon as possible. There is no need to delay. Mama, is that so? Hearing Gerd say this, Linlin, who dominated the giantess body, couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Looking at the gloomy sky above, she glanced at the remaining 7 or 8 warships and smiled excitedly. Just right, Zeus and Hera are ready. But I have to say, the soul of the Admiral is really delicious. Chapter 92, 20 Devil Fruits? If you dare destroy my entire clan, fallen angel Ai Air, I must admit that both the Marine and the world government underestimated you in the past. On the ruined Peninsula No. 2, Haemon's William looked coldly at the domineering fallen angel Ai Air in front of him and said indifferently, "However, you are indeed not smart. You finally saved your life from the pursuit of the world government, but you didn't hide and live in seclusion, but ran out to make trouble. Do you think that with your own strength, you can fight against the world government, a giant with deep foundation that has firmly ruled the sea for hundreds of years? Anyone, any force, who attempts to provoke the world government is doomed to die. This is the common sense known to everyone on the sea. If you know what's good for you, you can hand over the world nobles you kidnapped." However, that's what he said, feeling the powerful momentum of the Lunaria monster in front of him, which made people feel a little frightened. Haemon's William couldn't help but feel a little bit of pain in his heart. Because with the terrible strength of the fallen angel Ai Air and the amazing flying ability, if the other party wants to leave, even if his Marine Marshal tried his best, but he had no confidence that he could keep him. He could only delay as much as possible. He hoped that the world government would send reinforcements as soon as possible after receiving the news. But at this time, Kong, the strongest Marine admiral, was sent out early in the morning. He could not get back in time in a short time. "That's great. I really want to try it." Ai Air was full of sarcasm, sneering there. "I want to see how the world government will kill me next." To this day, although he is not invincible, but there are people in this sea who may kill him head-on. It is estimated that there is only one person, the king of celestial dragons, who hides in the Holy Land Mariehua and dares not see anyone. Moreover, this is only a possibility. According to the information he has learned so far, the other party may not be that powerful. Even if he has lived for at least 700 or 800 years or even longer, his strength may have already reached a bottleneck and can no longer move forward. Otherwise, there is no need to be afraid of the ability of a human fruit, a mythical beast species, and the Nika form. They also tried every means to erase its existence and renamed it the Paramecia gum fruit, mentioning the legendary liberation fighter, Sun God, Nika, and Joy Boy, etc. He changed color at the mention of it, giving people a look of fear and a little loss of control. For some unknown reason, Haki, who was sealed by Joy Boy for 800 years, was directly injured and knelt on the ground with sweat. This shows that the opponent's strength is indeed very strong, but it is not really invincible. It is far from reaching the level of cross-dimensionality, which can easily crush everything. As for whether it is possible for strong people to beat him up, at his speed, if he doesn't want to fight and wants to leave, I believe that no one in this sea can fight well. There is no need to be too timid. Marine? World government? They are enemies who will never stop fighting. If you offend them, you offend them. What else can we do? As for the 3 celestial dragons, Ai Air had a playful smile on his face. He ignored the livid and murderous Haemon's William and continued, I'll trouble you, the Marine Marshal, to go back and tell the world government that if you want to rescue the people, even though a Marine Admiral has been killed, Ai Air doesn't mind getting rid of another Marine Marshal to let the world government know what pain means. But according to the signal just sent by Sally, the Knights of God and Mariehua have already been dispatched and will probably arrive soon. It is obviously impossible to keep this Marine Marshal today. I'll give them half a month to prepare 20 devil fruits, carrying the sharp and huge barbarian dragon Oboro. Ai Air sneered and added unceremoniously, there must be 2 Logias, 2 mythical beasts, and a main ancient species. Not one less. What? Hearing this, Haemon's William's eyes widened, his face changed greatly. He glared at the fallen angel Ai Air who was opening his mouth to the lion in front of him. Impossible, don't dream. 20 devil fruits? This lunatic from the Lunaria tribe is really ambitious. He actually wants to blackmail the world government, and he doesn't want treasures, but only devil fruits. But think about it. You know that the world government will not agree. Even the naval headquarters' treasury doesn't have that much. Because although the Marine forces are huge and the bases are spread all over the sea, a considerable part of the more powerful abilities must be obtained from the world government. Only the devil fruit abilities that the world government doesn't like can stay in the naval headquarters. And he, the Marine Marshal, is responsible for approval and decides whether to reward those Marine personnel who have made great contributions and have great potential and are worth cultivating. And those Marine generals, if they have made great contributions and shown great potential, if they want to obtain those truly powerful abilities, they need to apply to the world government. This represents the gift of the world government, and these generals must remember it and be grateful. No, it must be possible. Ai Air's smile remained unchanged. Looking directly at the Marine Marshal, he smiled and said, because if the world government does not agree, I will directly give those celestial dragons some aphrodisiacs, throw them into the pigsty, let them mate with the dirtiest sows, and broadcast it live to the world. Remind you, I am just notifying you, not negotiating with you again. Get clear to me. Live broadcast. UBD. Haemon's William's pupils shrank sharply. He couldn't help but twitch his eyelids, opened his mouth wide, and sweated. Furious, staring at the remnant of the Lunaria tribe in front of him who was so bold that he didn't take the world government seriously at all. Damn it. Do you know the consequences of doing this? He couldn't imagine it. If the other party really did that, what kind of consequences would be caused? The world government, or rather, those celestial dragons who are high above, will definitely go crazy. The consequence? Will it be the extermination of 3 tribes, or the extermination of 9 tribes? Ai Air looked indifferent. He looked down at the other party and sneered with disdain. Hasn't the Lunaria tribe almost been extinct? What else can a world government threaten him with? As long as the world government finds traces of the Lunaria tribe, they will be captured and hunted down by Marine or CP. If he, the fallen angel, with a bounty of 600 million berries, is caught, he will most likely become a lab mouse, and his fate will not be much better. The 2 sides have already ended in a fight to the death. What else is there to be afraid of? The veins on a pair of fists bulged. Haemon's William's eyes were blazing, and he gritted his teeth and said, You lunatic, you are destroying yourself and the order of the world. Before he finished speaking, he couldn't bear it anymore. He rushed out violently, and his right fist condensed with a dazzling halo. He fiercely blasted at the fallen angel Ai Air with murderous intent. Betting on the justice of Marine, I will never, Li Zhao, let a villain like you do whatever you want. Stop showing off your hypocritical justice in front of me. It makes me want to fight. The blazing flames appeared out of thin air. The huge right fist clenched tightly was burning with blazing flames. Ai Er's eyes were sharp, extremely strong, and he blasted up without showing any weakness. Such an ugly and corrupt world order is just right to be destroyed and rebuilt. Flame Emperor! Be the loud noise kept echoing. A wave of heat swept across like ripples. The astonishing high temperature caused the atmospheric temperature of Peninsula Number 2 to rise sharply. The fierce flames and powerful shock waves were fiercely confronting there, squeezing each other. Crackle. In a short time, this place has turned into a hot hell. The bubbles in the entire area, as well as the sap secreted by the roots on the moist land, were ruthlessly dried and evaporated. Even the land formed by the roots of the Yaqui mangroves that emerged from the water was burned alive. Oh, Chapter 93. Angry out of shame? Tenmang Dajazai, God crackle. The fire was raging, and the smoke was billowing. One after another, towering trees were ignited. In a blink of an eye, the raging fire kept spreading across Peninsula Number 2. A wave of heat that was as terrible as magma came towards us. Isn't this madman afraid of destroying the island? Hammond's William couldn't help but change color, and he retreated immediately and pulled away. He stared at the fallen angel Ai Er with an undisguised murderous intent. His gloomy face was extremely ugly. Damn, this monster. No wonder he was able to kill Hack. In the previous hard fight, he who had the ability of the impact fruit was actually at a disadvantage. The other party's exaggerated power was even more frightening. He was so shocked that his arms were numb and trembling unnaturally. A bunch of guys who deceive themselves. Ai looked calm. He spat without hesitation. He looked down at the livid Hammond's William and said sarcastically, just shouting a few false slogans of justice. Do you really think you can represent the so-called justice and fairness? You little brat, stop talking nonsense there. Hammond's William was extremely angry and rushed up directly. His fist condensed a powerful shockwave. He kept bombarding Ai Er. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Ai Er was amazing and was not willing to be outdone. The barbarian dragon's big hoko danced, with thunder and fire intertwined, dazzling lightning and rolling heat waves. It made people's scalps numb. Chi, the huge spear tip, surrounded by amazing lightning and fire, was like a swimming dragon, swift and flexible. He chopped out continuously and fiercely, blocking Hammond's Williams' attack and launching a strong counterattack. Bang, bang, the loud noises continued. Two murderous figures were fighting fiercely there. You came and I went, neither of them gave in. Oh, soft. The earth rumbled and kept wailing. On the sea, there were huge waves rolling and surging. A series of fierce air waves, like ripples, rolled and raged in all directions. Bang! In a blink of an eye, another amazing collision. The blazing electric light flashed and the flames burned. The huge spear tip, carrying unparalleled power, was unstoppable. The Marine Marshal Hammond's William was shocked and changed color. The ground under his feet collapsed, and he flew backwards. To put it bluntly, Marine is just a dog of the world government, no different from the armies of the kingdoms on the sea. The only difference is that you are stronger than them. Holding the barbarian dragon, Great Hoko, the back of his head was blazing with flames, and his whole body was extremely violent. Looking directly at Hammond's William, who was struggling to stabilize his body, and Ai Er, who was chasing him relentlessly, he sneered and said, "If there is any difference, it is that you Marines have strong strength. At the same time, daft, as the running dogs of the world government, you are extremely inflated and arrogant than them." Nonsense! Hammond's William roared. He pressed his feet, stepped on the air, and rushed into the air. Buzz! The high-level armament Haki flowed from his right foot, and it condensed a dazzling shockwave. Observation Haki firmly locked Ai Er below. Looking down from a high position, like a rocket, kicked out fiercely. Wagwa! Ai Er's eyes were stern, waving the barbarian dragon's great Hokage. He was not afraid at all and slashed at it without hesitation. Swish! There was a sharp sound of breaking through the air. A fierce and unmatched sword energy shock wave crushed the atmosphere and broke through the air. It collided with Hammond's Williams kick with terrifying impact force. The loud noise shook the sky. The sea was boiling, and 3 waves rolled. Most of the area of Peninsula Number 2 collapsed. Countless seawater poured back and formed a huge lake. Osoyoyen, what do you think I'm wrong? The 4 wings fluttered together. Ai Air was furious and flew into the air. He directly chased the figure who retreated and landed on Peninsula Number 3. Relying on your powerful strength and the world government controlling those mouthpieces and manipulating the public opinion, any person or force that is hostile to you will be openly labeled as evil. He looked directly at Hammond's William, who was a little embarrassed, but his strength was much stronger than the previous Iron Claw hack, and he was not in any serious trouble. His eyes were extremely cold. The huge barbarian dragon Daho was dancing. He slashed at the Marine Marshal and said coldly, "But dogs are dogs. When a master gives you a bone, you have to wag your tail and beg for mercy. If the world government asks you to launch a buster call and destroy the Sabati archipelago now, do you, the Marine Marshal, dare to say no?" A remnant of the Lunaria tribe, a thug who offended the descendants of the Creator and committed unforgivable crimes. Hammond's Williams' face was gloomy. He glared at the fallen angel Ai Air. His eyes were cold. Criminals are criminals, no matter how high-sounding you say it is. You are just trying to change the concept. But that being said, he couldn't help but flash a trace of unnaturalness in his eyes. He clenched his fists tightly. His face was more ugly than ever, and he couldn't refute Ai Air's words. If the world government is really determined to let Marine initiate a buster call, the Marine Marshal must not refuse, because with the 5 elders' tyranny and strength, no matter how much he protested, it would be in vain. It is impossible to give in this regard. The next moment, he stepped on his feet. He rushed to Ai Air in anger. Besides, who do you think you are, and you are not qualified to point fingers at the justice of Marine? Since you dare not face it, then hide it. Don't bring it out to embarrass yourself. Ai Air is equally strong, carrying blazing flames. The mighty and powerful barbarian dragon Daihoko slashed out. "A dog is worthy of talking about justice with me? Stop pretending to be so pretentious." Swish, a scorching crescent-shaped giant slash. Haki, entangled with Hammond's William, blasted out from the air and the crushing shock wave. There was a strong collision. Crackle. The flames splashed. The scorching airwaves rolled. The number 3 peninsulae shook violently and wailed. The earth cracked directly and a raging fire ignited. The atmospheric temperature continued to rise, and the surroundings and even the sky were dyed red by the fire. But just as the two were fighting fiercely, above the dark sky, thunder rumbled. A huge tall figure, stepping on a giant great fireball with an anthropomorphic face that looks like a small sun, rushed towards the dark clouds at an astonishing speed. Who is that? Whether it is Hammond's William himself, or the surviving warships on the sea. A large number of Marines couldn't help but shrink their pupils. It can be vaguely seen that above the dark clouds, there are 2 huge devil-like faces. Mama, are there 7 or 8 warships left? At this moment, jumped out from the sun Prometheus, merged with Gerd, Lily, and others. Linlin controlled the power of the soul fruit in disguise. One foot stepped on the thundercloud Zeus, and the other foot stepped on the thundercloud Hera. The huge figure made people subconsciously feel awe. Staring at the surviving warships on the sea below, he suddenly ordered the 2 thunderclouds, "Get rid of them all at once." Zeus, Hera, in crackle crackle. In the sky, lightning and thunder. Zeus and Hera, the 2 great homies. Thunderbolt. With a devilish smile, they both opened their mouths and spit out terrible lightning. Moreover, they directly triggered the lightning in the dark clouds. 10-man Jeezy God. Linlin opened his arms, and his eyes were stern. He activated the ability of the soul fruit, and injected soul power directly into the lightning. Crackle one after another, like tree branches, constantly twisting, shining, and violently practicing terrifying lightning. As if they had life consciousness, they blasted down towards the Marines on those warships. Okagako, countless Marines screamed, because these lightning bolts seemed to have consciousness, and they attacked from all angles like lion majesty, piercing through their bodies. And they continued to attack others. There was no way to avoid them. Chapter 94. Mythical bee species Thunderbird form? Combo skill Hakoku. A hole, stepping on the atmosphere, rushed to the sky, witnessing this horrifying scene. Heyman's Williams' eyes were bloodshot. One after another, warships exploded violently. The ammunition on them was detonated by the lightning that seemed to have life consciousness. The smoke was billowing and the fire was burning. Mama, it's a masterpiece. Linlin in the sky, looking down at the warships that kept exploding and causing fires. Showing an evil smile. Gerd, we really match well. That's right. And me. We are the fallen angel, iron, triangle lily, Linlin, Gerd queen combination. The voices of Gerd and Lily sounded immediately. Huff Lingling. At the same time, a vampire bat flapped its wings like lightning from the Sabidi archipelago below and strangely merged into the huge figure. Isis. Linlin stood directly on the thundercloud Zeus, looking at the tiny figure below that was glaring at him. Then looking at the area above Sabidi archipelago that was burning fiercely and raging with fire. Noticed that in the distant sky, another giant bird bathed in lightning was flapping its wings at an astonishing speed. Moreover, 2 or 3 impressive figures could be vaguely seen on its back. The troublesome guy is coming. Seeing this, Linlin's eyes could not help but focus. Let's go down and meet up with Ai Erbafu. Crackle. On the blazing peninsula No. 3. Ai naturally also felt the approaching, strong auras. It's almost time. He had no intention of staying any longer. He flapped his wings and flew up. Don't even think about leaving. Boom! In a flash of lightning, the huge barbarian dragon, the great Hoko, waved out unceremoniously. He had a hard blow with Hammond's William, who was furious and rushed up again. Ai looked down at the Marine Marshal. Don't waste your energy. You can't stop me. Don't those guys claim to be descendants of the so-called creator and call themselves gods? He was full of sarcasm, grinning. Then let the whole world appreciate how the high and mighty gods mate with wild beasts. Go back and tell the world government exactly what I said, and I'll have someone contact them when the time comes. If one is missing, I'll let Celestial Dragons presents a wonderful cross-species reproduction course to the world. If 2 are missing, the number will double, and so on. Fallen Angel, Ai you lunatic. Heyman's Williams' pupils shrank sharply, and he was even more furious. But the next moment, Ai's eyes were stern, and he didn't talk nonsense with him. The whole body was intertwined with electric light, and suddenly he exerted force, and the huge spear tip was heavy. He was pressed to the ground. Woo-hoo-hoo! He flapped his wings directly, flying towards a female giant who was galloping. Above Thundercloud Zeus, the huge figure suddenly disintegrated. It turned into 3 figures, which were Lily, Gerd, and Linlin. Next to it, Thundercloud, Hera, and Sun Prometheus were also floating there. Ai/Auni-chan. The plan should be relatively smooth. Let's go, Ai said with a smile. He believed that since Marine Marshal Hammond's William had been lured out and was not in the naval headquarters, there should be no problem with Moss's actions. He was looking forward to returning. He found that the treasure house in the naval headquarters had been emptied. What kind of expressions would the Marines and world government guys have next? It will be exciting. Don't even think about leaving. Damn you, remnant of the Lunaria tribe. You want to leave after offending the descendants of the creator. Get down. In the distant sky, a giant blue bird bathed in thunder, full of murderous intent. At an astonishing speed, it flapped its wings from the other side of the Sabidi archipelago. It also had 2 or 3 figures on its back, and it had obviously noticed Ai and the others who were about to leave, and was full of murderous intent. Woo-hoo-hoo! The huge wings suddenly flapped, speeding up, like a stream of blue light. extremely fast. TSK, snowbird fruit fantasy beast species thunderbird form, looking at the thunderbird galloping over, and the three menacing figures on it. Ai Air, who had carefully read the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, got a copy of the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia through the Hell Chamber of Commerce, and soon recognized this ability. It has to be said that the background of the world government is indeed shockingly fishy. With a huge force that covers the entire sea, it is unknown how many powerful abilities it has collected over the past hundreds of years. If the Holy Land, Marioa, was not full of unknowns, it would be too dangerous. Zero, please give me flowers. Zero, Ai Air wanted to sneak in there and steal the devil fruit. X. Ai Air's expression did not change. Instead, he smiled and said to Linlin, "Today, let's test how well you have mastered the trick I taught you. Mama, I will definitely not let you down. Ai Air Oni Ai-chan." He pulled out the big saber Napoleon from his waist. Linlin, who had already had a tacit understanding with Ai Air and understood it the first time, smiled strangely there. Swish! She instantly activated the ability of the mythical beast species of vampire form. At a speed visible to the naked eye, it changed, transformed into a hideous and terrifying figure. Entered the human beast form. Are you going to use that trick? Sitting on the thundercloud, Zeus, Lily's eyes lit up. Blinking her big eyes excitedly, she was full of anticipation. I'm really looking forward to it. Gerd smiled, carrying the Shinigami sickle. She looked at the two people who were in high spirits, and she was indescribably envious. I wish I could master it as soon as possible. She also wanted to be like Linlin, to be able to join forces with the real Ai Air, launched the famous combination of the giants, and powerfully killed the invading enemies. Hey, guys from the Knights of God. In an instant, Ai Air and Linlin, who both maintained their human beast forms and had terrifying faces, looked stern. Locking onto the flapping thunderbird and the figure on it, they all raised their weapons and sneered. It must be the strongest spear from the Ai Erbafu. Muscles tensed, veins popped. The momentum kept rising. What? BB. Everyone be careful. The next moment, in the eyes of the huge thunderbird and the 2 or 3 figures on it, they changed color in horror. Whether it was Napoleon, who was wrapped in Haki and shining with strange bloodlight, or the barbarian dragon Daihoko, who also flowed with Haki and intertwined with strong electric light. They all suddenly danced out. Hakoku, buzz, buzz. The sound of breaking through the air continued. A huge shock wave that was extremely fierce and exaggeratedly large overwhelmed the weather. With a lightning speed that was faster than thunder, it blasted towards the huge thunderbird with terrifying momentum. It was mighty and unstoppable. What? Chapter 95. The Frustrated Knights, the Empty Marine Treasury. Boom, boom! A deafening roar. The entire Sabeti archipelago was shaking violently. It seemed that the Argamon mangroves, which serve as the foundation of the island, could collapse at any time. If it weren't for the fact that most of the pirates, residents, nobles, merchants, and marines on the island had already lost consciousness under the Conqueror's impact. I'm afraid that at this moment, they would be scared and sit on the ground in panic. Hualala, hualala. The wind was raging, and the air was rolling. The sea was surging, and the waves were rolling endlessly. Wave after wave of exaggerated waves kept surging in all directions. This monster, having been suppressed by Ai Air and blasted to the ground, Hammond's William, who had just rushed into the air on Moonwalk, saw this. Even the Marine Marshal. At this moment, he couldn't help but change color with horror. He couldn't help but open his mouth and sucked in a breath of cold air. The extremely terrifying attack just now actually wiped out a corner of the Sabeti archipelago. Roar in the sky. The sky seemed to dim. A huge monster hundreds of meters long and majestic appeared, carrying 283 and wrapping Lily, Linlin, Gerd, and others. Behind the huge and ferocious head with golden horns, the raging flames suddenly went out. The huge Quetzalcoatl was bathed in amazing lightning. 2 pairs of huge wings, one blue and one black, flapped bringing up an extremely fierce wind pressure. Woo woo! It was as if a long-brewing super typhoon suddenly broke out there. The towering trees on the Sabeti archipelago couldn't help but fall to the ground. They groaned and cried. Even many tree trunks broke directly and fell down. Some buildings that were not strong enough were blown away directly. I wanted to rely on Hammond's William, who rushed up from Moonwalk, had a changed face. He was forced to retreat by the surging airflow and could not even stand still in the air, not to mention trying to chase. SF. The next moment, the huge monster that covered the sky and the sun suddenly showed a terrifying speed that was beyond the reach of others. Like a giant blue rocket, it flapped its wings and rushed into the distance. There was no intention to stay at all. Fallen angel Ai Air. Roars echoed, one after another. Figures with amazingly strong auras but somewhat embarrassed rushed into the air one after another. Their faces were extremely ugly, glaring at the huge monster in the sky. Murderous. Damn it. A huge thunderbird cried out. It took off again and tried to chase, but it could not keep up at all and directly turned into a complete body, controlling the power of wind and thunder, and its speed was so fast that Ultimate's giant feathered serpent was constantly left behind. His squeak squeak. It was extremely ferocious, with its sharp beak wide open, and lightning flashed violently. Tried to attack, but the opponent was extremely fast. In an instant, it rushed to a height of 10,000 meters and could not be locked at all. No need to send. Ai Air's arrogant voice echoed there. If you want to save those celestial dragons, prepare the ransom for me. The damned remnant of the Lunaria clan must not be let go. These members of the Knights of God who claimed to be noble and arrogant. Each of them was livid and furious, but they could only watch the huge figure of the other party rushing towards the distant sky, getting smaller and smaller and constantly moving away. Helpless and aggrieved. At the same time, Naval Headquarters, Marineford, adjacent to the Sabeti archipelago. In the solemn and majestic Naval Headquarters building, a heavily guarded treasury sealed by a seastone gate is located in a hidden corner. Even the metal-cast, reinforced walls around it are infiltrated with seastone to prevent capable people from breaking in. However, no one could have imagined that, under such circumstances, someone could actually break in quietly. The treasury is full of dazzling jewels and treasures. A large amount of gold and boxes of Bailey are piled up there. The amount is so huge that it is jaw-dropping. There is a surveillance phone in a different space that no one noticed, following the user of the door fruit, Uten. The furry youth Moss couldn't help but frown. Do you want to kill them? Don't worry about that. Since everything may attract attention, let's first find out whether there is any hidden secrets. He touched the horns on his head. Uten smiled confidently and said, I believe that even if the Marines react and rush in, they can't open the door of the treasure house in at least 5 minutes, especially when their marshal is not here. Moreover, I can open the door in the opposite direction, so that even if they rush in, they will directly enter the different space and cannot attack us in reality. At least they can hold on for a few minutes. Devil Fruit has an upper limit. However, how much effect it can play depends on how individuals develop and use it. Since he acquired the Paramecia door fruit from the black market through the Hell Chamber of Commerce 3 years ago, under the advice of boss Ai Air, through the efforts of the past 3 years, he has already played the ability of the door fruit in many ways. Enough to easily kill these Marine was in a state of confusion. Indeed, with that little Oz guy, Moss smiled and nodded. I believe that these few minutes are enough for us to clear this place. Even if we can act quickly and covertly, they will most likely mistakenly think that there may be a problem with the phone signal. Without 100% confirmation that someone has invaded, based on Marines' cumbersome procedures, they may not react so quickly at all. Soon, the two of them continued to explore in the alien space. Found the secret compartments in the treasure house where the devil fruit and the treasure map were hidden. Confirmed the location of those more secret treasures. Air door. Then, a thumb-sized, almost negligible air layer door suddenly appeared in mid-air, but it did not attract any attention at all. Flying finger pistol. Wutan took action directly. Although he is still very young, he has a good talent. Under Ai Er's guidance, after years of hard training and practice, he has mastered the 6 styles very well. 0. Even finger pistol's extended skill, flying finger pistol, has been mastered. Disc-ass-gaffed. A series of air blades broke through the air like lightning. Accurately, they pierced through those telephone beams. Moreover, they were all killed in one blow. Swish, confirming that all the den mushy had been eliminated. They directly opened the large air door and walked out of the alien space. Barry, let's get started. Moss took out a mirror, said to Barry, the mirror fruit user who was waiting inside. We don't have much time. No problem. In the blink of an eye, the mirror enlarged at a speed visible to the naked eye and appeared there. Barry, the snake-headed boy who came out of the mirror world, exclaimed there, "Wow, it's amazing." It's not that he hasn't seen a lot of treasures, because a considerable part of the Hell Chamber of Commerce's black transactions are directly traded with gold and jewelry. It is far more than the treasures left by Sister Carmelo when she was engaged in the child trafficking industry for many years. But compared to Marine's treasure house, it is indeed a little bit dwarfed. A huge amount of various gold and jewelry, and even some rare treasures in the world, are piled together. This visual impact is really beyond words. It is not comparable to the mere Bailey banknotes. Of course, looking at the gold and jewelry full of traces of time, Nakin hugged her arms and chuckled and said, "These treasures are mostly the spoils obtained by Marine over the long years of successively exterminating pirates, or salvaging those sunken ships, excavating treasures, etc., accumulated little by little. But it's a pity." Also nodded there and said, "Because the world government's quarterly financial allocation is not directly distributed in cash, but remitted to Marine's bank account under the world government. But in general, the harvest is already big enough." Moss directly opened the secret compartment dedicated to collecting devil fruit. There were a dozen treasure boxes of different colors, slightly larger than a normal person's palm. He packed them all with a large square cloth, put it on his back, and said with a smile, "When we empty this place, I believe it will be enough to drive them crazy. Hurry, Oz. Hurry up and help move it." Utin, the user of the door fruit. He spoke to Little Oz, an ancient giant. "No problem, leave it to me." Little Oz patted his chest, and his body size expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. He turned into a human figure of 5 or 6 meters tall, but his extended big hand kept expanding. It was like the palm of a giant, directly lifting a large amount of treasure. It was stuffed into Mirror C, which was enlarged again by Barry, the user of the mirror fruit, and placed flat there. Bang, 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 bang. The extremely heavy treasures kept hitting the fragile mirror, but it didn't hurt it at all. A large amount of treasure kept sinking into it. It was like a bottomless pit that could never be filled. It was astonishing. Chapter 96, Vomiting Blood. Angry 5 Elders. Beep beep, search for me. Don't let any suspicious targets go. Block the port and the entire coast, and never allow anyone to leave without permission. Everyone must pay attention. The other party may be a space-type ability user. Naval Headquarters. The sharp alarm echoed. A few minutes ago, after receiving an abnormal report from the monitoring room, the Chief of Staff, Minister of Finance, and several Naval Headquarters Vice Admirals came with the key to open the Marine Treasury. Looking at the empty treasury, everyone was stunned on the spot. One by one, their eyes bulged out, and they widened their eyes in disbelief. And of course, for a time, the entire Naval Headquarters was in chaos. A large number of Marines with live ammunition gathered, searching frantically for any suspicious targets, trying to catch the thieves who stole the treasury. What did you say? Sabaody Archipelago. Marine Marshal Hammond's William received the report. His brain suddenly boomed, his body shook, and he almost fainted. "I'm very sorry, Marshal William. It's our fault for being too careless." The other end of the den mushy. The Chief of Staff 30 of the Naval Headquarters was sweating profusely, and he was crying and reporting. At first, the staff in the monitoring room thought that the treasure house was too closed, which caused the signal to be abnormal, and tried to troubleshoot the fault. They didn't sound the alarm in the first time. Unexpectedly, in just a few minutes when we arrived, the entire Marine treasure house was emptied. Damn it, the fallen angel Ai hearing this. Hammond Williams' face flushed red. His throat felt sweet, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Marshal William, a surviving Marine staff, saw this, and their faces changed drastically. They hurried forward and tried to support the other party. "I'm fine." His fists were clenched and cracked. Hammond Williams' eyes were full of bloodshot. His breathing was heavy, and he tried his best to calm down his overly angry emotions, gritting his teeth. "Little devil of the Lunaria tribe, Feng will not be done with you." He never expected it. The fallen angel Ai was so bold. Not only did he kidnap the celestial dragons and kill the admiral of headquarters, but he also emptied the treasure house of naval headquarters. And the whole plan was meticulous, not all casual. It was clearly planned for a long time. Hammond William, naval headquarters was invaded, and the treasure house of naval headquarters was emptied. A tall, middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s, wearing a uniform, came to Hammond William. In front of the Marine Marshal, there was some shock. Although he looked a little embarrassed, he could vaguely recognize that he was dressed very gorgeously and wore the unique medal of celestial dragons. Yes, Howard Saint, although I don't know how he did it. There is no doubt that it is definitely related to the fallen angel Ai. Hammond William gritted his teeth and said he didn't mind the other party's somewhat domineering and condescending tone, because the other party was not only a celestial dragon, but also the leader of the Knights of God, and his status was indeed much higher than that of him, the Marine Marshal. Killed and kidnapped the descendants of the Creator and scrupulously killed the Marine Admiral and emptied the Marine's treasure house. The leader of the Knights of God, Nerona Howard Saint, had a gloomy look and gritted his teeth and said, "This remnant of the Lunaria clan is really crazy." Originally, they were halfway here. When they learned that the Marine Admiral Ironclaw Hack was killed, they still felt those Marine guys are so useless. But when I really experienced the combination of skills performed by the Lunaria kid and the young girl before they left, I really realized how terrible the opponent's strength was. No wonder the Admiral of Headquarters couldn't stop it and cut off the head directly. Boolabaloo at this time. The din mushy on Hammond William rang. "I am Marshal Marine. Just press the answer button and answer the call." Before Hammond William finished speaking, the phone simulated the outline of a big mustache and cursed. "Hammond William, are you Marines good for nothings?" Not a single criminal was caught, and the culprit, the fallen angel Ai, the survivor of the Lunaria tribe, escaped. The kidnapped celestial dragons were not rescued, and the only rescued Phoenix Saint became a complete cripple. First, G5 and Jun, the two large fortresses of the Holy Land Mariewa at the New World Gateway, were attacked one after another, with countless casualties. Even the Marine fleet that surrounded the Sabidi archipelago, which was far larger than the normal Buster Call, was almost wiped out and suffered heavy losses. The Admiral, who represented the highest combat power of the naval headquarters, was beheaded by the little devil of the fallen angel Ai. Now, even you, the Marine's treasure house, was quietly emptied. A bunch of trash, a great shame. The face simulated by the din mushy kept changing. Several stern and old voices were full of anger. He reprimanded the Marine Yuansher, who stood at the top of millions of Marines around the world and was a powerful Marine. "I'm very sorry. It's my mistake, Mr. Five Elders." Hammond William lowered his head. Facing the reprimand of the Five Elders, he dared not refute at all. "I am willing to take full responsibility. You are just a Marine Marshal. What can you take responsibility for?" The din mushy imitated the outline of the Five Elders with white beard and said coldly, "Saint Hannock was tortured and killed, Saint Phoenix was abolished, and Saint Gi's and the other three are still in the hands of the fallen angel Ai. William, your responsibility will be discussed later. Immediately mobilize all the forces of Marine and CP to pull out the fallen angel pirates and rescue the 3 celestial dragons. Serve 5 elders before the BD fallen angel Ai escaped. He made a condition and asked me to tell the world government. Hammond's William hesitated. Glancing at the arrogant members of the Knights of God who were watching coldly, he said directly to the phone. He said that if he wants to rescue the 3 world nobles, he must use 20 devil fruits as ransom. And there must be 2 Logia, 2 mythical beasts, and 3 ancient 82nd generations. What? That audacious pariah. He doesn't know how to live or die, and dares to threaten the world government. 20 devil fruits and 2 Logia and 2 rarer Zoan mythical beasts. It's a lion's mouth. How can I agree to him easily? The world government will never compromise with anyone. Not to mention the other end of the Den Mushy, the talented star far away in the holy land of Maria. The members of the Knights of God who were present were furious when they heard this. But that kid from the Lunaria tribe is a lunatic, he said, looking at these angry and murderous members of the Knights of God. This martial marine took a deep breath and suddenly reminded him, if you don't agree to his conditions, give those celestial dragons aphrodisiacs, throw them into the pigsty, and use a large Den Mushy to broadcast live to the world. What? A hole! He dared, damn guy. He must not be spared. That pariah, he is looking for death. Hearing this, it's not just the 5 elders far away in the Holy Land, including the leader of the Knights of God, Howard Saint. Several members of the Knights of God heard this, and their faces changed drastically. One by one, their eyes were spitting fire, furious and murderous. Chapter 97. 12 Fruits? Washing fruits? I see. In the unknown sea, on an uninhabited desert island, the huge Quetzalcoatl was shrinking. Several tall figures appeared there. In the air, the sun Prometheus and 2 thunderclouds of Zeus and Hera were floating there. Let's settle down here first, and then go to Sky Island, Ai said with a smile. Hee. That move of dominating the sea is enough to make those guys drink a pot. Linlin took out the mirror and shouted into it. Barry, get ready to come out. Do. Barry's figure appeared on the mirror. The mirror enlarged at a speed visible to the naked eye, and he, the snake-headed tribe, drilled out directly from it. Ai Erbafu, this time we have a huge harvest. Swish. Figures of different shapes drilled out from enlarged mirror one after another. Ai /boss sir. Nakin, Locke, Little Oz, and the others were all smiling and full of vigor. This time they did a great job. The name of the fallen angel pirates is bound to spread throughout the sea. Gurgle, so big, just like a giant. Is this the captain of the fallen angel pirates? The legendary Lunaria tribe. No wonder they are called fallen angels. And those slaves of various races who were rescued from the slave auction house and were willing to follow the fallen angel pirates looked at Ai who was tall and had black wings on his back, like the legendary fallen angel, and was full of oppression. One by one, the pupils shrank, the eyes widened and swallowed. Can't help but feel awe. Wow, the moment I saw Ai's tall figure. The beauty of the 3-eyed tribe. Lillian screamed in surprise. Not only 2 eyes were shining, but 3 eyes were shining. It's really you, the fallen angel Ai. Her face flushed. She was extremely excited, and she ran up immediately. She stared at Ai with stars in her eyes, full of unspeakable admiration. Lord Ai, I am Lillian. Like you, I am a special race persecuted by the world government and on the verge of extinction, the 3-eyed tribe. I went out to sea just to find you. She completely turned into a little fangirl, introducing herself happily. 8 years ago, you followed the giants to destroy the marine fortress and resisted the world government. You were so handsome. Hello, Lillian. Ai looked at the blonde, blue-eyed, excited girl from the 3-eyed tribe. He stretched out his big hand, lifted the other's bangs, stared at the 3rd eye on his forehead that looked like a sapphire, and said with a smile, "What a beautiful eye. When you are with us in the future, you don't need to hide it deliberately. On the way here, I have heard about Linlin. Welcome to join us. I believe that our dream of gathering all races of all nations will soon come true." Well, seeing Ai really did not dislike her eyes. Lillian was full of joy and nodded excitedly, looking forward to the future. Everyone sit down first, said, gestured to Locke, Nakin, Moss and others. Looking at other mermaid girls, human girls, cat fur tribe, and other slaves, he smiled and said, "You are also welcome to join. We are all family. Don't be too restrained." Yes, you Tion Run. Mermaid girl Ely, long-legged youth Mad, cat fur tribe youth Tom, and other slaves who were originally a little nervous. Seeing Ai Air, the leader of the fallen angel pirates, was so kind, not as unfriendly as imagined, and they all breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. Sure enough, their choice was not wrong, especially the handsome and resolute appearance of this adult. It made several female slaves lose their minds and reluctant to look away. Ai Air boss, do you want to move those treasures out? Barry asked directly. No need, put them in the mirror world first. With a tall body, sitting on the soft back of Thundercloud Zeus, Ai Air chuckled and said, bring out those devil fruits and see if there are any good things. Yes, take out those devil fruit quickly, I want to see it. Linlin and Lily's eyes lit up, full of excitement, and couldn't wait to say, there should be one or two good abilities anyway, right? Gerd said with a smile. We don't know what abilities it has. Naakeen said with a smile. I haven't had time to take a closer look. All the devil fruits are here. Moss didn't hesitate. He opened the package on his back. Treasure boxes of different colors were placed in front of everyone. Treasure boxes? Linlin was overjoyed. She rushed over and hugged the treasure chests. I love opening treasure chests the most. You are not allowed to snatch them from me. Linlin, you can't go too far. I also want to open a treasure chest. The giant girl Lily also stepped forward, with her hands on her waist, and said dissatisfiedly, then I'll give you one. Linlin reluctantly gave up. She pushed out a treasure box with a reluctant look on her face. She didn't care about what kind of treasure it was or what precious items were inside. On weekdays, even if it was a delicious snack, she would be willing to share it. But this one was not allowed. I like opening unknown treasure boxes the most. Enjoy the moment of opening the treasure box and finding all kinds of treasures inside, which brought me the sense of surprise and accomplishment. No, that's too little. Half for each. Lily naturally disagreed, and what Ely sat. Linlin held the treasure boxes like a child and shook her head decisively. No two, no more. 3. Okay. Looking at the two idiots who were haggling and bargaining, Ai Air shook his head and laughed. Gerd, Locke, Nakin, Moss and others were also speechless, because they knew that this was the devil fruit, which was called the secret treasure of the sea and was worth at least hundreds of millions of Baileys. The slaves who had just been recruited, except for a few people, such as the three-eyed girl Lillian and the mermaid girl Eli, who were just a little curious. Although the eyes of others were a little hot, they didn't have any inappropriate thoughts. Ai Air nodded slightly, and his character was okay, so he could stay. Originally, he was not qualified to join the Fallen Angel Pirates so easily. However, the Fallen Angel Pirates will expand in a big way next, recruiting soldiers and horses and preparing for the Tato land plan that will be fully launched. As long as the guys are not that bad, you can consider taking them in. Hurry up, Linlin. As Linlin compromised with Lily, under the expectation of everyone, the two girls couldn't wait. Each grabbed a treasure box and opened it. Inside were two fruits of different colors, and they had already been labeled. Paramecia, washing fruit. Paramecia, bean fruit. What a strange ability. It doesn't look good, compared to the disappointment of others. Ai Air raised his eyebrows and was a little surprised by the ability of the washing fruit. Unexpectedly, the ability that belonged to Crane in the future was intercepted by him. However, even the people were almost intercepted by him. A devil fruit, it's no big deal. The bean fruit is easy to say. The ability user can directly disintegrate into various original forms of different sizes. Ai Air, who had seen the devil fruit illustrations, smiled and said, the washing fruit is not simple. It can turn people or objects touched into clothes and then hang them to dry. It is said that even the evil in the target's heart can be slightly reduced after washing. So powerful. You can turn the other person into clothes just by touching them. You can even cleanse the soul. Incredible. Hearing this, everyone present was a little stunned. I didn't expect that such an inconspicuous ability as the washing fruit would be so exaggerated. It can turn people into clothes and temporarily wash away the evil in the heart. It really makes people's scalps numb. Paramecia whipped fruit, Paramecia egg fruit. Then, Linlin and Lily each opened a treasure box. The whipped fruit can command everything that is whipped, which is a good ability. Ai took a quick glance and briefly introduced. The egg fruit is also very special. It has several special Li Zhao Zhao evolution forms. Listening to Ai Air's introduction, everyone was amazed. Linlin and Lily were also a little impatient to continue opening other treasure boxes. Paramecia Euro fruit, cat fruit, black cat form. Paramecia light and heavy fruit. Sheep fruit, antelope form. It didn't take long. All the treasure boxes were opened. There were a total of 12 devil fruits, 8 of which were labeled. The other 4 were unknown devil fruits. There were countless different kinds of devil fruits on the sea. Even a powerful world that had firmly ruled the sea for hundreds of years, the government cannot fully count them. Most of these unknown fruits have appeared in history, and they may not be completely unrecorded in the fruit encyclopedia. A considerable part of them, although their specific shapes are not recorded in the encyclopedia. But there are some records of related abilities. She is not a capable person yet. After all, she is just 21 years old in this timeline. It is reasonable that she is not a capable person at such a young age. In addition, regarding the egg fruit, Oda has not clearly stated whether it is Paramecia or Zoan. So according to the performance of Baron Egg's ability, it tends to be Paramecia. If it is a slap in the face, I will modify it again. Chapter 98, The Sea Trembles. Roxdy, Zebek, unprecedented. A pirate with a bounty of 2 billion. Condolences. The descendant of the great creator was unfortunately killed. Admiral defeated. The Marine Admiral who was killed. Iron Claw hack. 17-year-old Lunaria monster. Fallen Angel Ai Air. Shocked. Marine Admiral Iron Claw. Hack lost to Fallen Angel Ai Air and died heroically. Audacious. The villains who attacked the descendants of the creator. Fallen Angel Pirates. World government furiously announced. Unforgivable crimes. All members of the Angel Pirates will be hunted down to hell. Sky-high bounty. Anyone who finds the whereabouts of the members of the fallen Angel Pirates and reports to the world government will receive a huge bounty the next day, along with a large number of newsbirds, carrying brand new newspapers that had just been printed and exuded the scent of ink. They flew to all parts of the world. The shocking news was like a heavy bomb falling from the sky and exploding. In an instant, it caused an uproar. The 4 seas shook. The Grand Line shook. Fallen Angel Pirates? Gulu, is this true? Someone dared to kidnap and kill celestial dragons? Yes. Not only did they attack celestial dragons, but they also attacked 2 marine fortresses in New World. Even the Marine Admiral, who represents the highest combat power of the naval headquarters, was beheaded. Fallen Angel Pirates. Do they really want to challenge the behemoth of world government? 2 billion Baileys? That Kukulkan Ai Air. Is he really only 17 years old? Great, the damn celestial dragons finally got their comeuppance. This is not some evil 677 gangster. It's simply our hero. The sea was in uproar. Countless people looked at each other, rubbing their eyes again and again, reading the newspaper word by word over and over again. I thought I saw it wrong and couldn't believe my eyes. On the sea, someone actually dared to take action against those world nobles who were high above and enjoyed the highest privileges. No one expected that such an unprecedented event would happen in just one day. First, 2 large marine fortresses were attacked by the fallen Angel Ai Air, causing countless casualties. Then, the world nobles were kidnapped by the fallen Angel Pirates, and celestial dragons were directly killed. Even the Admiral of Headquarters, who led the fleet and made every effort to maintain it, was beheaded. A fleet no less than the size of Buster Call was almost completely wiped out. It was simply jaw-dropping. Fallen Angel Ai Air. Hey, are you kidding me? The survivor of the Lunaria clan who followed the giants to destroy the marine fortress? The famous Iron Claw Admiral? He was defeated. Since ancient times, Marine Admiral has rarely been defeated, not to mention being killed on the spot. What a monster! In the first half of the Grand Line, in a certain sea area, the Roger pirates, who had just finished coating here and were preparing to head to the Fishman Island. Looking at the newspapers they had just ordered from the newsbird, they all opened their mouths wide and lost their voices in disbelief. Although they knew that the celestial dragons were kidnapped and some were killed before leaving the Sabati archipelago, it was bound to cause a huge storm. But they never expected that the fallen angel Ai Erbafu, a descendant of the Lunaria clan who was offered a bounty of 600 million berries by Marine at the age of 9, was actually the mastermind behind the scenes. Moreover, on the same day, they directly attacked the G5 fortress located in the front half of New World and the G1 fortress, which is the gateway of world government in New World. Even the admiral of headquarters, the famous Iron Claw Hack, was defeated, and he was beheaded by the fallen angel Ai Erbafu. It was so fierce. Roger jumped on the bow, looking at the tall, cold-faced, wings-carrying, young figure on the newspaper. After hundreds of years, someone finally dares to challenge the giant world government. What a terrible guy, Silver Rayleigh exclaimed. Just turned 17 years old, and a bounty of 2 billion Baileys is offered. It is indeed unprecedented. TSK, world government is going crazy, right? Copper Jabba was also a little surprised. Why do I feel that I should have stayed at the auction house at that time? Sunbell, the fisherman slave who was auctioned in Sabati archipelago and later rescued by Roger pirates, scratched his head there, looking at the reports that the fallen angel pirates had rescued those slaves and invited them. He always felt like he missed something. Wow, that's really an incredible guy. Roger bared his teeth, stepped forward to stop the fishman companion, and laughed and said, "But now you're a member of our Roger pirates. You can't regret it." Of course not, seeing that Captain Roger was not shy and put his arm around his shoulders with fish gills. There was no pretense at all, and there was no disgust or disgust like other humans. Bell couldn't help but smile. Although Dodge missed the fallen angel pirates, joining Roger pirates is not bad. "Everyone, we've arrived at the Fishman Island." Roger, smiling, pressed a straw hat. He opened his arms to the others, grinning, and announced, "Let's have another good party." Oh, at the same time, in the second half of New World, on an island occupied by pirates. It seems that many pirates were drunk after a carnival party. They were lying there unconscious, and some were holding on to wooden barrel cups or wine bottles, looking ugly and not waking up yet. In a large cave, a tall figure with a face full of stubble, a head of wild and messy hair, a fierce face, and a slovenly appearance. He was embracing a fair-skinned and beautiful female pirate, sleeping there. There were many empty bottles in front of him, obviously the same as other pirates. "Captain Rox, something big has happened." At this time, a Rox pirate crew member rushed in and shouted at the drunk man sitting on the huge sofa. "Well, what's the matter? Why are you making so much noise?" The wild figure woke up. He cursed unhappily and pushed the woman in his arms away. He put on his pants in a few seconds, picked up a bottle of unfinished wine, and drank it in big gulps. He walked out with his muscular arms bare and didn't care. "Take a look." The crew member directly stuffed a newspaper and a stack of brand new bounty notices into the man's hands. "Well, I drank too much yesterday, and my eyes are a little blurry." Fallen angel Ai Erbafu. He threw away the bottle. Looking at the eye-catching bounty, he shook his head, which was a little heavy. "Rox D." Zebek held his forehead and said in surprise, "Hasn't this guy disappeared for many years? 200 million Baileys? Why is his bounty less?" If he remembered correctly, fallen angel Ai Erbafu seemed to have been Marine offered a reward of 600 million berries, which caused quite a stir on the sea. In the past few years, he had also wanted to invite the other party to join his Rox pirate, but he couldn't find anyone. "Captain, look carefully. It's not 200 million. The crew member's eyelids twitched. With a frown on his face, he pointed at the exaggerated amount on the bounty and reminded loudly, "It's a full 2 billion. He not only attacked the 2 large fortresses of Marine in the first half of New World, but also led the fallen angel pirates to kidnap and kill celestial dragons directly in Sabati archipelago. Marine Admiral died. It was the Iron Claw hack who chased us and almost ripped you apart. It said that he fought with the fallen angel Ai in order to rescue celestial dragons and was beheaded. What? Listening to the crew's quick introduction. Looking at the enlarged, eye-catching title on the newspaper. Originally Careless Rocks D. Zebek couldn't help but open his mouth wide and his eyes popped out. It was really a big fuss. After a long time, he recovered from the shock. After reading the report in the newspaper, he bared his teeth and laughed wildly. What an incredible guy, even crazier than lousy. But it's really well done. Ha. Chapter 99 Crane. For the future Marine, please. At this time, Naval Headquarters, Marineford. Marshal Haymans William, who had just returned from the Red Line and was exhausted physically and mentally, leaned weakly on the office chair and closed his eyes, rubbing his eyebrows. In just one day, he felt as if he had aged 10 years. Knock, knock. Marshal William, the criminal. Commodore Crane has been brought in. Knocks on the door sounded. Outside the door that was not closed, an old figure wearing shackles and full of wrinkles was escorted in by 2 Marines. You go out, close the door. Harmons William, who was resting with his eyes closed, did not open his eyes. He just raised his eyelids slightly and waved to the 2 Marines. Yes. The 2 Marine soldiers looked at the handcuffed old woman reluctantly, but they still turned their heads, stood at attention, and saluted. They closed the door and left. Who could have thought that the Marine's most beautiful woman, who was once admired and called the flower of the Marine, would become so old and decrepit and end up like this? Marshal William, has my punishment come? He was neither happy nor sad, as early as when she was under strict guard and under surveillance. Her heart had already cooled down, and she was mentally prepared. The only thing she was both thankful and sad about was that her youth was taken away, and she became an old woman with wrinkles all over her face and half buried in the ground. At least, she would not be humiliated by those brutal and domineering celestial dragons. If the other party really refused to give in to her in order to vent his anger and tortured her in every possible way, then she, the Naval Headquarters Commodore, could only leave a reputation of committing suicide out of fear of crime. The descendants of the Creator are noble and inviolable. No matter what the situation is, no matter what the reason is, celestial dragons cannot be offended, but you abolished Phoenix Saint, and your crime is unforgivable. Haymans William opened his eyes. He looked at the flower of Marine, who was once high-spirited and had unlimited prospects with complicated eyes. From a little bit of reluctance, he turned to firmness, hardened his heart, and said in a deep voice, "Although it is not your fault, it is not a reason to be forgiven. So, I have been abandoned, right?" He laughed at himself, but there was no fear, only discouragement. After all, she looked so old that she didn't have many years to live. What else can I do? I'm very sorry. I've tried my best. Haymans William sighed lightly. I believe you already know that this time Marine has suffered heavy losses. Not only were the 2 branch fortresses G5 and G1 in New World attacked, but even the Marine Admiral was unfortunately sacrificed, and the fleet he led was almost annihilated. Naval Headquarters Treasure House was emptied by the fallen angel pirates. The captured celestial dragons were not rescued, and not even a criminal from the fallen angel pirates was caught. Because Marine's performance was so bad, I completely lost my voice in front of the top leaders of the world government and couldn't speak. The only thing I can get for you is to let you have a decent death. At least you don't have to be tortured by celestial dragons. In fact, despite fighting for it, but celestial dragons still insisted on asking him to hand over Crane. But Haymans William wanted to give this female subordinate a decent death as much as possible, and then tell celestial dragons that she committed suicide out of fear of crime. At that time, even if celestial dragons asked him to hand over Crane's body, they could build a tomb for it and bury it in Marine's martyr cemetery. This will also help stabilize Sengoku and Garp, who are in a coma and have a close relationship with Tsuru, the flower of Marine, and are being treated at the Marine hospital. It will prevent them from being completely disappointed with Marine after they wake up. They may even get angry and leave Marine too impulsively. Also, I don't want to bother you with this matter. Speaking of this, even as a high-ranking Marine Marshal, Heyman's William couldn't help but look unnatural and a little hot. Whether it's Sengoku or Garp, both of them have amazing potential. When they grow up, they will definitely become the backbone of Marine and cannot be lost. If it weren't for the special identity of Crane, which involved the two of them, he, the Marine Marshal, wouldn't have to be so entangled. Sometimes, in order to practice the justice of Marine, it is also necessary to compromise. Really, he is outstanding in strategy. He has the title of Crane of 1,000 Strategies. How could Crane not see the intention of this William, the Grandmaster? But even if she was disappointed with the justice of Marine, she didn't want Sengoku and Garp to give up their bright future for her and even degenerate into pirates. Looking at this Marine Marshal who used to be righteous and encouraged herself to be unyielding and forge ahead for justice, her heart was full of irony, somewhat sad. "Marshal William, please give me half an hour." Took a deep breath. He spoke in a low voice. "I will leave a letter for Garp and Sengoku. What is the justice that he pursues with passion?" "Okay, you have 2 hours." Hammond's William nodded slightly. The suicide note left by the other party must be reviewed by him, the Marine Marshal, before deciding whether to hand it over to Sengoku and Garp. Even if the two of them will inevitably have a fight at that time, as long as they are moved by emotion and reason, for justice, for the order and peace of the sea, and for countless people in this world, I believe they will eventually understand and accept it. There is a gap between reality and ideals after all. Justice is not as simple as it seems. It is not black and white. Sometimes there are deep and light grays. I'm very sorry it involves celestial dragons. Even as a Martial Marine, I can't do anything either. Hammond's William stood up there, looking at this female subordinate who was deprived of her youth and looked extremely old. She showed self-blame and guilt and bowed deeply to he. "For the future of Marine, please." "I understand." He had no expression on his face. In her heart, there was no ripple. She was so smart that she saw through Marine justice. How could she be fooled so easily? It's just that she has no choice. "Later, I will have someone send you a cup of poison wine, so that you can leave without pain as much as possible." Hammond's Williams said directly, "If you have any unfulfilled wishes, you can also raise them. I will try my best to satisfy you if I can. If possible, please scatter my ashes on the sea." Crane said directly. What really made her a little sad was, in fact, if this Marshal William really trusted her, there would be a better way to break the situation. Maybe he could also take advantage of the situation to infiltrate other big pirates, or even the fallen angel pirates. But she knew, and the other party knew it, but didn't bring it up, because he was afraid that she would be dissatisfied and resentful towards the world government, and even the Marine, and really defect. He might even turn Sengoku and Garp or other Marine generals against him. Obviously, this Marine Marshal didn't dare to gamble. He didn't want to gamble. Chapter 100, World Government's Fear, 5 Elders' Decision. Your Excellency 5 Elders, Saint Hars, the father of Saint Hannock, and the families of Saint Phoenix and others are all outside, clamoring to see the 5 adults. The top of the red line. Holy Land, Mariehua. The majestic Panjur Castle. The center of power of the world government. The power room. A servant came in with sweat on his forehead and was careful about Lily's report. "Nonsense. Let them go back." The 5 elders, who control the highest power of the world government and are known as the God of War, looked a little unhappy. "Tell them that we have ordered the naval headquarters and CP to search for the whereabouts of the criminals with all their strength, and are trying to save the 3 kidnapped celestial dragons." The tall and thin figure, wearing a black suit, and the meticulously dressed long white beard 5 elders frowned and said unhappily, "Please rest assured, World the government will never spare those who offend the descendants of the Creator. Once the members of the fallen angel pirates are caught, they will be publicly executed and broadcast live to the world, and they will be cut into pieces and executed by slow slicing to serve as a warning to others." Speaking of this, the environmental martial god, Saint Marcus Maz, looked cold and said coldly, "Use the blood of these untouchables to clearly tell the world that those who dare to offend the majesty of God will end up like 730. Yes, the servants retreated respectfully. With a bang, The expensive tea table in front of them was smashed to pieces, and the expensive teacups shattered all over the floor. The five elders, who was wearing a black suit, a tie, a big mustache, and a bald head on his forehead, were extremely angry. What a misbehavior! The legal martial god. St. Topman Vacheli gritted his teeth and said, I didn't expect that the fallen angel Ai heir was so bold that he took the initiative to attack celestial dragons in revenge for the world government's pursuit of the Lunaria tribe. I was really careless. I didn't expect that the remnants of the Lunaria tribe who escaped by chance that year would quietly grow to this extent. Shepherd 10 Peter Saint, who was tall and had short golden hair and a crimson suit, said in a deep voice, Moreover, the Marine side was also a little injured this time. Not only did we lose an Iron Claw admiral, but we also lost 5 or 6 vice admirals with good strength. The agricultural god had a serious face and said quietly, according to Hammond's Williams report, the 2 major fortresses, G1 and G5, were severely damaged and completely turned into ruins. Only a few warships that left the base for routine cruise missions and a small number of Marine personnel on vacation were spared. At least more than 20,000 people were lost, and they were all naval headquarters and knew the elite troops of the world have suffered heavy losses, which is unprecedented. These are easy to deal with. At worst, we can ask Marine to conduct a large-scale conscription to replenish the troops. Holding a samurai sword that looks very similar to the legendary Supreme Sword, first-generation Kitetsu. The financial martial god, Izambaron V. Nezashiro, who was wearing a loose white Taoist robe, a bald head, round-framed glasses, and a gloomy face, reminded, what is really worth paying attention to is that the fallen angel Ai heir, the natural monster of the Lunaria tribe, according to Williams' report, did not leave any obvious scars on his body after the battle with the Marine Admiral Iron Claw hack. From this point of view, whether it is based on the racial ability of the Lunaria tribe to ignore damage, or from his amazing defense as a natural monster, which is invulnerable to swords and guns, and his super recovery ability, it should not be underestimated. Wearing a flat hat and a scar on his left forehead, the scientific defense martial god, Jega Yulujiasakin, who was sitting next to Yankyu Lee, was facing the resistance. Leaning on a cane, he said bluntly, at least, he has the strength to threaten or even kill the Marine Admiral. A single Marine Admiral can no longer threaten him. To fight or even capture him, you must have 2 or more Marine Admiral-level strongmen. In addition, he, a member of the Lunaria tribe, has the kind of racial talent that is quite feared, and his ability of the mythical bee species Quetzalcoatl form that once appeared briefly in history. The combination of the two makes him extremely fast. It is not easy to really stop him. The previous god's knights went out, but returned empty-handed and failed to stop the other party, which fully illustrates this point. Hearing this, the 5 elders present all frowned. Originally, the ability user of the bird fruit, the mythical bee species, the thunderbird form in the god's knights, should be able to catch up with Quetzalcoatl at full strength. 2, but he happened to encounter a monster like the fallen angel Ai heir. The other party not only has a pair of black wings, but also has a very good flying ability. The Lunaria tribe has 2 very special states of racial talent. One is that when the flames behind the head are burning, the defense is almost invincible and can ignore damage defense state. The other is that when the flames behind the head are extinguished, although the defense is reduced, the strength, speed, reaction ability, etc. will be greatly enhanced attack state. When the fallen angel Ai heir uses the fruit power and extinguishes the flame bed at the bottom of the head, even the legendary Thunderbird cannot catch up with the feathered serpent whose speed has increased significantly and is flying at full speed. That's why the Lunaria kid dared to challenge the world government so recklessly. Maz frowned and paced slowly. In other words, if you want to keep him, you must make all the necessary preparations in advance. He is so ignorant and fearless. How could he imagine the depth of the world government? Nasu Sholong hit the first-generation Kitetsu hard, revealing a murderous intent, and said sinisterly, he has found a way to his own death. So, Do you want to agree to his conditions? Pitt frowned and said, 20 devil fruits, it's really a lion's mouth. He is indeed an ambitious guy, especially when he specifically asked for 2 rare Logia, 2 rare mythical bee species, and 3 ancient species. I don't think we can agree to it. Nasu Sholong Shung's eyes were full of murderous intent, and his attitude was tough, although the number was a bit large. It must also have very rare and rare Logia and mythical bee species abilities. But these devil fruits are not something that the world government cannot provide. After all, some celestial dragons usually use 1 or 2 devil fruits to feed slaves or pets for fun, although most of them are obtained by the celestial dragons at auctions at their own expense, which is a private behavior. But it can also be seen how deep the foundation of the world government is. Even the devil fruit, which is known as the secret treasure of the sea, is not something that can be looked up to buy all abilities. One thing is one thing. They are high above, and they obviously don't want to be threatened and manipulated so easily. For the behemoth world government, these devil fruit abilities may not be a big deal. But we have to admit that devil fruit is a product that surpasses human intelligence. Some special abilities, if they fall into the hands of those talented and lawless pirates, may indeed cause considerable threats and troubles. Of course, it is impossible to foolishly take out so many devil fruits to help the enemy for no reason. That damned Lunaria kid, we must not let him off easily. Saint Vituri's eyebrows were full of anger, and he gritted his teeth and said, but the most urgent thing is to rescue the kidnapped celestial dragons first. You don't want those guys to do something crazy at that time, right? Because among the kidnapped people, there are members of their Topman family. Although it has been a gap of many generations, he doesn't really care about the other party's life or death. However, if the fallen angel Ai Erbafu really gave that guy an injection of aphrodisiac and threw him into the pig pen to broadcast live to the world, their Topman family would lose face. This is what Saint Vouchuri can't stand. If he really can't save them, he would rather give way to his descendants or even other kidnapped celestial dragons. Dragon sacrifice. I don't want this to happen. Indeed, otherwise if their families come to make trouble every day, we will have a headache. Maz Saint said in a deep voice. Especially the face of God cannot be lost. Let the Knights of God and the Marine side make full preparations. Once the 3 celestial dragons are rescued, this scourge must be completely solved, and be prepared for the worst. The descendants of the Creator are sacred and inviolable. Although the various celestial dragons' families in the Holy Land have been passed down from generation to generation for hundreds of years and have many members, some people are inevitably conflicted in private, but they have always been united to the outside world. If such an ugly thing really happens, it will shame all celestial dragons, and they cannot accept it. If an accident happens at that time, it will really be impossible to rescue people safely. They will choose to give up the 3 celestial dragons without hesitation, even in order not to damage the dignity and reputation of God. They will also make up their minds to wipe them out at all costs. OJ. Just then, the doorbell rang. Come in. 5 elders paused. A waiter came in a hurry. Saint Maz asked unhappily, what's the matter? Are those celestial dragons still making trouble? No. The waiter knelt there and reported briefly. It was the Marine side. They said that the criminal who hurt Phoenix Saint, Naval Headquarters Commodore Crane, committed suicide after hearing that he would be escorted to Red Line for Phoenix Saint to deal with. Marshal Williams said that in order to stabilize the morale of the Marines, he hoped that the world government would not publicize it. Committing suicide? Are you playing tricks on us? Saint Nasu Sholong pushed his glasses and sneered. We haven't held him, the Marine Marshal, accountable yet, but he wants to act like a marshal and command us. Satan looked directly at the waiter kneeling there and said indifferently, tell Haman's William that it's not his turn to make decisions on what the world government should do. Forget it. This is a time of trouble. Saint Maz waved his hand. William said before that the female Marine involved 2 future Admiral seeds. Let Saint Phoenix vent his anger. Forget it. Whatever. It's just an insignificant little character after all. There's no need to make a big fuss about it. When the time comes, hand over the body to Saint Phoenix. Yes, FL.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.